Welcome, everybody, to the second attempt at this Outlaw Nation show tonight. I want to apologize to all of you who've been watching. I'm so used to looking at my camera. My HD camera completely blew up. A really weird thing that happened there on the webcam. So now I'm using this here in front of the computer. So much weirdness happening there. And so, and unfortunately, I had logged this thing as a private chat. And for those of you who are sending in your comments, sending in your super chats, sending in your Streamlabs, I wanted to give you a chance to come up on the screen and give you much love. So you're getting a wide view of my office now, because usually I kind of narrow it down, but I don't have those controls here on the computer for the camera on the MacBook. So that's what I'm using now. I may occasionally look up thinking that I'm still talking to this camera, but it is completely off. So here we go. This is what happens when you start later in the day at 8 o'clock at night. Everybody's getting crazy. Maybe the computer wants to shut down, doing its own thing. That's the way it goes. But we are here live with the Outlaw Nation show. Thank you all so much for joining me here tonight. How many have I got here who've swung over? 49 of you already in here. Already 26 likes. Thank you all so much. Thanks for being patient. Every once in a while, the tech stuff comes and catches up with me. Those of you who've been around with me on the Outlaw Nation since the beginning, you know that at the beginning I had a lot of tech issues, and I figured it out, and I feel like I've been a lot better ever since. But now this is one of those rare moments where things happen and you have to adapt and improvise, and I have done that just like a military man should. And those of you who served, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You troubleshoot the situation, you adapt, and you improvise to complete the mission. And the mission tonight is to sit here for 2 hours and have a great time talking with my faction mate, my former rival, my friend, and my co-host on the Schmoedown Backstage show. That is the great Ben Bateman. He is one half of Action Industries. He's going to come on this show. We're going to have a great time talking about so many things. We're going to get to know Ben Bateman a little bit more. It ain't going to be just about the Schmoedown. It ain't going to be just about movies. It's going to be getting to know Ben, appearing behind that wall a little bit, getting to know behind those soulful eyes of his, who he really is as a person, what makes him tick, and what motivates him, and what he enjoys in life beyond movies, or maybe it's just movies. We're going to discover all of that. And of course, there'll be some Magic the Gathering questions, I imagine. So it's going to be an exciting night tonight, and I'm excited to bring him on to the show. But first, I got to bring on my boy Wiley Todd, who helps me put all this together. Also, shout out to Suge Knight, who's also moderating. For those of you who don't know, who maybe come trying out the Outlaw Nation show for the first time, you can be brought on live into the show to ask your question. Of course, we also appreciate you sending in your super chats and your Streamlabs, things of that nature. You got to keep the lights on in the Outlaw Nation's headquarters. So please send those in as I bring Ben Bateman on. Ask your questions. We're going to get through all of them tonight and talk about so many things. But let me bring in Wiley Todd, who's going to let you know how you can be involved in coming on live to ask your question to me and Ben Bateman. Wiley.
So, first of all, guys, sorry for that, but here, I'm going to break it down simple for you guys. If you guys want to get on the show quickly and you don't want to be waiting forever, and plus you have ahead of everyone else, join the Patreon. Not only you get to join on these type of things 20 minutes early, you also get to have 2 hangouts a week, one voice chat and one video. Those are happening tomorrow night and Thursday night. So those are happening, so you can do that as well. But basically what will happen is the people that are Patreons currently right now, or if you join right now in our Discord, we have the Streamlabs link so you guys can join, and you guys have a 20-minute grace period. So that you have 20 minutes. Then once that happens, the gates open and you guys can come in. What will happen is I will be sending a link out where it says StreamYards. If you guys haven't done StreamYards before, it's pretty simple. You click on the link. It'll ask you in the top corner to allow your microphone and camera. If you don't have those, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You can use your phone. But once that happens, you'll be put in a room where you see everything that is happening live. There's no reason to have the YouTube thing anymore. It's basically counts as a view when you're on here. So what will happen is it'll say at the bottom, you're in the show. But Rocha can see you, and he'll let you know before you're on the show with Ben Bateman and Rocha. It's pretty simple. But if you have any questions, ask me, Suge Knight, Jake Yakavetta will help you if you need it. Don't be afraid. It's very simple, and it's a fun time. Have a good night, get a nice drink, and sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So That's what's going to happen.
That's right. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, Wiley. I appreciate it, my man. Definitely. There's going to be so much going down, and I appreciate you all joining us here live. And Wiley will be moderating as well, getting everybody. I see people lined up already. So let's get this show started. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Outlaw Nation. As I said just a few seconds ago, one half of the action industries, one half of the legendary Schmoedown team action that changed the game in so many ways that teams before had never done. And a gentleman who is the former Schmoedown singles champion of the world, soon to possibly be a Schmoedown tag team champion of the world if things go his way with Mark Riley, but also a gentleman that I'm proud to have gotten to know even better over the last year. And yeah, does that mean we don't still have our struggles every once in a while? Damn right we do. But he's a great guy and he's become a good friend. And I'm excited to sit here with him and talk about everything possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the boss himself, Ben Bateman. How are you, Ben? What's going down, my man?
How are you, John? How are you?
Good to see you. You too, my man. Yeah. Look at those glasses. How are you bringing out the old school stuff? All right, I like it.
These are the horrible glasses that I wore. I made the mistake of wearing once when I played against Scott Mance in the I think it was in the Mance match. And I bought all these pairs of glasses and I bought these offline and I won. I got my movie release date slice. So then of course the picture on the slice was with these awful glasses.
Right.
That looks like I hang around. They look like I hang around in like too many playgrounds. Like they're awful glasses. But despite the fact that they look awful, I've got a match coming up against Mance very soon to try to win back that movie release date's slice. So I try to put these things on every once in a while, just for effect, just to get used to them.
I like them. I dig them. They look good on you. They're fantastic. I'm sure people are enjoying you wearing them. How are you doing? Like, are you coming off another show? You were doing another show before you came on to this. Seems like it's been a busy day for you. We did backstage earlier in the day. You are just in demand today, man.
This was a long one, man. We did 2 hours of backstage. I did an hour and a half of the Magic Gathering show I do this week's show, and then literally just wrapped that, and then here we are. So, but you know this life, the world of content creation. It's if you have a day where you're recording 5-6 hours, it's probably a good day. I mean, that probably means it's a good thing. If you're busy, there's probably a reason. At the point that we're at, if you're making that much time for it, it's probably something good.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm more exhausted now than I was when I was working at Collider, doing a full-time job and having those podcasts on the outside. I'm just as busy, if not busier now, and exhausted than I ever have been in my entire life. It's crazy how much more it asks of you to build something, to build a brand, build a channel, build whatever. And I'm sure you have experiences with Andrew Ghai doing that with the action industry, starting out small and how you're slowly growing step by step, piece by piece, by leaps and bounds. What's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, for me, I think a lot of people know this. Some maybe don't. I'm the vice president of sales of a toy company that is actually owned by my podcast co-host Alex Kessler. And so doing that job the last few years, I've done that as a full-time career job as well as the full-time media position, which means it's like 2 50-hour jobs a week. And that job has required me to travel a lot. That combined with Schmoedown and the Magic events means, the major thing that would throw kind of a wrench into my ability to feel like I ever had any time to breathe was travel. Work, I'm whatever. Like, I think I'm the same as you. I like to work, right? I like to be busy, but traveling kills me. I mean, like those travel weeks where I'd be gone 21 out of like 32 days kind of a thing. And I'd have to try to do all of it around it was where it really knocked me out. And so it's a little refreshing actually to have so much more time to just work from home and to be able to really spend time building the brand. I mean, as you know, from doing this, it asks a lot. You really have to roll up your sleeves and think about every failure, every time you try something and it doesn't work. Well, why didn't it work? And how can I try on the next one to make it a little better? Because 4 out of 5 ideas in this space just don't work. And the ones that do, it's like, yes, I finally did something right.
Yeah, and you and me are so interesting in that approach because I feel like time is running out. So to me, I'm always hustling as hard as possible, doing so much and trying to get it all done. And I have unrealistic expectations of what I want the channel to be and what I want to do with the channel. Do you feel the same way with how you're doing it? Or do you feel like you've got a little more time to kind of build this thing step by step? Do you have an ultimate goal as well of where you want this thing to go?
It's such an interesting question, John, because at one time in my life, when I got into hosting, when I was about 26, I think I was 25, 26, and I kind of like figured out, okay, this is an interesting thing, a different thing than the acting and music and modeling thing I was doing, because I used my brain in a way that the other ones really never did. At that time, I think I still was trying to figure out, you had your people that you knew were successful. You had Bill Simmons and Mark Maron. You had Ryan Seacrest or, Maria Menounos, hosts that were very successful on television. And I think as I was getting into the business about 5 years ago, I started to realize that those jobs, that type of career, was kind of going by the wayside. Like if you had gotten in, good for you. You had built your following. But if you weren't already in, all those hosting jobs were now going to start going to movie stars. They were just going to step down and host shows, right? Jamie Foxx beat Shazam, Will Arnett, Legos, like that. These guys all just take the jobs now. So
yeah, they do, man.
So I think for me, when I started to realize that, what I realized was I like, and I've always liked performing. And once the following started to build a little bit like more in a significant way, where I connected to audience members, like to people that really cared, like they expressed, like same way that, people will reach out to you and they'll say, John, your journey as the Outlaw and the Schmoedown has meant so much to me because your perseverance, I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
When people start to express that to you, you then start to really feel and realize, okay, I'm doing this because I love doing it and I love creating entertainment. But when I've made a lasting impression on someone else's life based on something that makes me happy to do anyway, I think I'm in the right business. And so that's kind of like, I love doing what I do. I think the ultimate goal probably is to own a company and a brand big enough that I'm able to, create content with the creators and the artists that I respect the most. So, I take a lot from Bill Simmons out of his book. I think him doing it first with ESPN, then starting, Grantland and then The Ringer. He has the biggest celebrities in the world on The Ringer. Yeah. He's the top dog, right? He produces all these podcasts. John, you've done Top 10 and I did Action Movie Anatomy for years. Yeah. Those shows are not so different from the rewatchables, but he got the rewatchables on TV because he's Bill Simmons. Right. He gets to do the video version of our podcasts, but on television because he's Bill Simmons. Yeah. And I listen to those shows and I'm like, he's just doing the same thing. We're just laughing about our favorite movies.
It's true. And I would argue this, that we're both better on-camera hosts than Bill Simmons is. He's a great podcast host, but we're both better on-camera hosts than Bill Simmons is, which is why his shows don't always get the best ratings and get canceled. But it's so funny. I didn't know that until now. We are very similar, Ben, because to me, the reason I got into this game was Mark Maron and Bill Simmons. I listened to hours and hours of Bill Simmons, and I read him back when he was on ESPN Page 2. Like I started reading his stuff way back when in the 90s or early 2000s, rather, when I was still kind of figuring out being an actor. It was kind of my respite from missing it or messing up an audition or not getting a job or, struggling working those temp jobs to try to be available for acting gigs. I read Page 2 to kind of keep me kind of like involved in sports and connected to sports in a new and interesting way. His columns were incredible. And then when he started doing podcasts, I downloaded everything and I listened to hours and hours of his stuff. And then I discovered Mark Maron, and Mark Maron was the one who really finally pushed me over the line. And I started doing all this stuff. Obviously, Christian helped me by opening the door. But once I realized that how much of an influence both these guys were on me, I started to create all these podcasts. And it's one of the biggest reasons, brother, why I have so many different shows, because they are a model for that. Obviously, Maron has one, but Simmons has multiple. And so I find that interesting that we discover something similar about each other, motivated to do what we do through those guys.
Yeah, I think, for me, like I can think about the different experiences in my life that I enjoyed when I was trying to perform. And I can think about the ones that sort of lost their luster, right? Yeah. So I moved to LA the first time by myself when I was 17. And then I came back out here for good when I was 21. Right. And when I was 21, that was really the time that I was like, all right, so I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to do, at that time, I had an album that had just come out. I was, singing, songwriting. I was working on the second one. I was doing like a little tour. And I was getting ready for that. And I also was modeling like a little bit on the side because I was 21. I was this little skinny kid and I was all pale. Everybody said I looked like Robert Pattinson. So I was doing the vampire thing. And then, and I was acting kind of, I was auditioning, right. But I was this young kid. And so that was kind of the dream. And what I learned after about 5 or 6 years of kind of trying those things was I love music and I'll always love it, but I didn't want to do it as a full-time job. I didn't want to have to spend 8 hours, 10 hours sleeping in vans, cheap hotels, because that's the model. So I was like, okay, that's a hobby. I'll do it my whole life, but I don't want to have to do it. Right. And modeling, pretty quickly, I was like, you know what? The people that can make a lot of money doing this on their own, like just because they're good at it.
Yeah.
It's easy. Great. But I'm not going to work hard to be good looking. That's a silly thing to do. I don't want to work. I don't want to spend my time working hard to like achieve something to book these jobs. Cause like, that's a terrible, terrible, terrible goal for me when ultimately it's fleeting and it's going to go away someday anyway. I'll get old. So like, I kind of gave up on that. And with the acting thing, what I realized was I liked performing, but I really didn't like the part of it that I had to let go of this. I didn't like to have to go from here. I had a really hard time letting go. I was always thinking during my scenes. And so when I started to kind of put that together, I had a big breakup when I was about 24. It was like around 25, I had a friend reach out to me and say, hey, I'm doing this gig with this company called Bite Size TV. I know you're really into basketball. Do you want to come talk about it? And I kind of went and tried it. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is performing, but I'm using my brain. I'm like thinking about it. Like, this feels like what I want to do. And that was kind of the entry point. And then I started to really lean on those big inspirations, the Chris Hardwicks and Marins and, you know, Simmons, these guys.
So subconsciously that stuff comes into play once the door opened. Once the door opened, you realized, hey, this is something I actually can do, I want to do, and I have an affinity for it, right? And I have a natural ability for it that I know if I work hard at it, I will be able to hone it and get it into a position where I feel comfortable and confident enough to take on any job and handle it. Let's go. And that's great. I mean, let's go a little bit farther back. And guys, please send in your Streamlabs, send in your super chats. Not seeing too many super chats rolling through, but seeing some Streamlabs. Let me throw some in real quick, Ben, before we move into the next question I want to ask you. Tim Kaskuba says, what's up, John and Ben? I'm definitely asleep when you read this. 4 a.m. wake-ups are rough. Your question of the night: who are two actors that have never worked together that you'd love to see pair up in a film? For me, it would be Denzel and Will Smith. Wow, do two actors come to your mind that you'd love to see together? That's an interesting combo, man.
Well, first of all, Tim, big salute to you, Action Army guy. Love to see you in here. I imagine you're an Outlaw Nation guy as well, so we're lucky to have the same fans here.
Agreed.
I think you know, for people I would have wanted to see work together. There's some that aren't around anymore. You know, I think I mentioned it earlier. Paul Newman's my favorite actor of all time.
Yeah.
So there are guys like Newman that it would have been really cool to see. You know, like Newman never worked with DiCaprio, I don't think. I'm pretty sure DiCaprio's comeback was 2002 and Newman died in 2006. His last major movie was 2002. So those two together would have been pretty incredible. I think that would have been really special to watch. I think there's a part of me that would love to see like Nick Cage and Denzel. I'm pretty sure those two never worked together. Yeah. You know, how do you feel about Nick Cage, by the way? I feel like that he's become a meme, but I still feel like he's literally 1% away from being a massive A-lister again if he gets the right role.
He is still an A-lister. I mean, to me, you have these comeback stories of guys like Robert Forster coming back thanks to Tarantino, or Travolta coming back thanks to Tarantino. But someone like Cage is like Michael Keaton. He's just hanging out there waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And once the casting directors come back around and a part looks right, they will go and get Nick Cage. I mean, the fact that he consistently works all the time, like there's a Lawrence Fishburne movie that's out now on Hulu I'm going to watch probably tomorrow or Thursday and just enjoy the batshit craziness of it all, because that's what I like about Nick. Nick is a damn good actor, and when he's in these films, he's not mailing it in. He's not sending it in. He actually commits himself to these roles. Are they great choices? No, most of the time, but you can't doubt that Nick Cage is dialed into the lunacy and craziness of it all, and it's speaking to him on some universal wavelength that maybe only 5 people can hear in the world, but he brings himself to it, and I appreciate that overall about him. Yeah, definitely.
I didn't get to watch Running with the Devil, I think is the movie you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to watch it, but it was the Tuesday night. So you remember when I had my back surgery back in October, that week when I was kind of realizing I couldn't stand up, I was kind of fighting through it. And the last press event that I worked was the premiere of that movie, Running with the Devil. And I was on the way home, and I had just interviewed the week before Nick's son, Weston. He and Martin Cove's son, Jesse, were in this movie call D-Day. And so Andrew and I had done a bit with them.
Nice.
I even did my Nick Cage impression for Weston. It was ridiculous, but I had never seen Nick in person before. And he's a hero of mine. He's like an all-time hero of mine.
Totally.
And so, because he's fucking Nick Cage. I mean, The Rock, like all these, his 90s Cage is like legendary.
So, it's on top. It's unstoppable, man. That's prime Cage. That's prime Cage. Yeah.
Amazing. So I got there, and it was the Writers Guild building, and like I didn't actually get a press spot to interview Cage, which I was really disappointed by. But I did. I had a nice viewpoint, maybe 5 feet from him, as he kind of, he was coming in and like waiting. Larry Fishburne comes in, Adam Goldberg, a few other people that were in the movie, and I look out. Cage gets out of the car. He's on the street. He's wearing like a cowboy hat He's wearing like a jean jacket with like wolves all over it, leather pants, some old badass rock and roll tee, a huge beard. He walks in, he immediately gets out, and he just starts signing autographs right away. And I'm looking at him like, that does not look like a guy that's fallen off. That still looks to me, that still looks like a massive superstar. And he walks in, and he's just immediately Nick Cage. He's putting his hands up, he's smiling, he's walks over to Larry. You know, he gives him a kiss on the cheek. It was outrageous to watch him in person. He's a guy, dude. When you talk about interviewing the people you want to interview, I would die to interview Nick Cage. I mean, that's like top of the list for me.
I don't disagree with you. The energy just to be in the room with a guy like that. And you imagine he gives you everything that he can give you in that moment. And you respect that as a person who's going to interview him as well. Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with you at all. My answer is Jim Carrey and Eddie Murphy. I'd like to see them do a movie together. I've never seen them in a movie together. It'd be kind of fun to see what they could do. Alec O'Neill donated some here. He said, the dynamic in the exchange is almost as entertaining as the Schmoedown itself. Would you ever consider an exhibition match of John and Ben teamed up against Mark and Dan? Wow.
Well, so it's an interesting question. You know, I think you and I have we can be pretty candid about this.
Yeah, it's the Outlaw Nation. Be as candid as you need to be, man.
We talked about kind of the different directions that the Schmoedown stories could take. And I think we both know there's a lot of different directions it could go. I mean, obviously the exchange, there's all this turmoil people have talked about. So there's the explosion version where, the exchange doesn't work. We've heard that one. We've also heard the one where John and I would find some way to team up. I think people have wondered if that's going to happen for years. And I think an exhibition match Team Champs was a team, John.
It was.
Back in the day, Dan and Mark, that was the original team when you were with Notes. So they know how to play with each other just fine.
Mm-hmm. And we beat them. We beat them, Team Champs, and it was a shocking victory for us to beat them over Arachnophobia, I think it was, or Eight-Legged Freaks, one of those two spider movies. We happened to squeak by them because of that movie. But I've said this for the last year now. Teaming up with Ben would be an incredible experience on so many levels because, and this is one of the reasons we kind of got into it last week on Schmoedown Backstage, we have two such phenomenally different approaches to the game, and they work for both of us. I'm more of an organic player. Ben is very much more of a cerebral player. He's still organic, absolutely, and figuring things out as he goes. And I've got an element of cerebralness to my game as well, but it's mostly organic, and Ben's is mostly like the beautiful mind type of stuff, and you respect that. To see us work together and troubleshoot a question that we might have some question about would be an interesting experience on so many levels. And I know both of us would know how to encourage each other if we had a tough round one to go into a round two. And there'd be this desire to prove something because, I will always want to beat Dan Murrow because he is the best to ever do it. And you might have a desire to beat Dan, of course, after what happened in Atlanta, but also Riley. I mean, Riley's one of the old guard. And so it would be a nice motivation for us to play them in an exhibition match. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think you and I have had a lot of pretty interesting conversations about competing in the Schmoedown and the different approaches. I still feel in a lot of ways like I'm like the young buck on the scene, but which is funny because if I look at the all-time records, not just of like points, but like even just of matches played. Yeah. At this point, I'm not so far behind you and Dan. And I mean, at this point I've played so much that it's hard to even really look at myself that way anymore. Really, like there's not that many people that have played as many matches as we have. Right. There's very few actually. And so when you spend that much time doing it and you really get used to doing it, it's like, I'm pretty entrenched with the way that I like to do it. And the weirdest thing is that anytime I've ever had that moment or that feeling of like, I hate this isn't right for me anymore. I'm sick of this. I don't like the way this makes me feel. It doesn't last more than a day or two. And then you're right back to wanting to get back out there. And Christian always says it too. He always says, every one of you is the same. You guys are all the same. Nobody actually retires and wants to stay away. Everybody wants to come back. Everybody misses it.
It's our drug. And once you get bit, it's tough to let it go. Do you know what I'm saying? So I absolutely thoroughly agree with you. Double XS Material donated. Somebody said, "Hey guys, two of the Schmoedown legends." Oh, very kind of you. Thank you. I think this was your best hosting together on Backstage yet today. You're really vibing together. How is Backstage for you guys? It's hard to stay impartial when people come on. Is it hard to stay impartial when people come on and talk about the league? Ben.
So I think the reason today was our best hosting together is a little bit of two things. I think number one, John mentioned it on his chat last week, but we had some words last week after the show because, trying to figure out the flow of that show before COVID was one thing. Yeah. And then during COVID, when we're both up till today, kind of like helping Christian essentially run the show.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of coming back to today was like, look, I had to call John and say, this is kind of my vision for the show that I had wanted to do in the first place. Because the show started when you were at a Collider. Yeah. It was an SEN show. And so I said, I want you as the co-host, but we have to kind of be on the same page about this is the vibe of the show that I want. Right. Mm-hmm. So we had a kind of a heart to heart about it. And I actually think today felt a lot more like the show that I envisioned in the first place, which is, we're supposed to be inside baseball. We're supposed to be pundits, right? Like, we don't need to feud on the show. That's the time and a place, sure. But like in general, that's not the point. It's not supposed to be just two guys in the exchange yelling at each other. That's not like, it's not going to make for a good show. And so I think today was a pretty good show for the reason that we were kind of supporting our guests, I think, for the most part, which is what it really felt like to me.
I also felt like we were vibing because after that conversation, there's an understanding of the respect we want to have with each other. And I agree. There will be times we'll disagree with each other. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it just doesn't have to go to bring up the old stuff from the past that I think we had kind of talked out and hashed out in our conversation, which I think was essential. And that happens. That's life, and that's the progression of a relationship, of a friendship. And as I said at the end of our conversation, I don't want to reveal too much because that's personal between us. I did say that I was very appreciative of the fact that we got to do that. And we were both open to having the conversation, because that's really the most important thing when things like that happen is communication and understanding. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but understanding and creating space to hear the other side of it is really essential. Yeah.
And I have to say, John, I mean, I'll tell you this on air, and I think I'd say it off air as well. I was very impressed with your approach to that conversation, because I was agitated, and I think you handled yourself really well. It allowed for a really good conversation. I think especially two guys, we have ego. I think we get admit that, we like to be who we are in the space. So having a conversation like that and it going as well as it did, being able to really just say, look, I'm going to lay out exactly how this is exactly what you did that pissed me off. And I'm going to tell you every single second of it. And for you to then say, well, okay, if we're putting our cards on the table and this is exactly what you're doing. And both of us just sort of, okay, that makes sense.
No, and I agree. I appreciated that you were willing to go to look at it. And that meant a lot to me, because I was like, well, if you're asking me to look at it, I'd like you to look at this and see what you think about this, how I'm reading it. And that way, both of us were able to see, I can see why you felt that way, or I can see why you took it that way. Okay, this is what I really meant. This is what I really intended. And that helps. It gives perspective for both of us about what was actually happening. So I think it's a positive overall, man.
I think so too, and I think let's not let the audience get any false, misconceptions here. Tensions are still going to flare, guys. There will still be drama because it's inevitable with two guys like us. Yes, but I'm glad that we're on the same page right now. It feels very good.
I don't disagree with you, brother. I don't. We got enough to deal with in the world. All right, this is a super chat from Ben Rayner. Says, love Nick Cage, Matchstick Men, and Family Man. Underrated movies, in my opinion. I'm a fan of both of yours. #salute and #horseman. Yeah, I agree. I think Matchstick Man is great. I enjoy a Family Man. I think that's one of my new Christmas movies that I watch every Christmas. And I'll throw in The Weatherman. I think The Weatherman is an enjoyable watch as well. People need to discover that movie as well. Yeah,
dude, oh my goodness, if you're a fan of me, if you guys have been following what I've been saying for the last years of my life, you know how excited what John just said makes me. That's my number one answer when people ask for underrated movie that I love. Yeah, it's The Weatherman. I've made more friends of mine watch that movie than I can count. I adore The Weatherman. I think it's such an underrated movie, dude.
It really is.
The scene in The Weatherman when Michael Caine stops him, but when he's about to go into work, and they sit down in the car, and he's like, puts on Like a Rock, and he says, "I don't get it," because Cage tried to dedicate the thing to him. And Cage starts explaining to him the song. Yeah. And he's like, "I can't knuckle down." And Caine has the line where he says, "You're always worried about your kids, no matter how old they are. They're still looking after." Like the whole sequence. Oh my God. He goes, "I heard you took care of Mike's guidance counselor. I'm proud of you." And that look on Cage's face, like that scene is, and the humor too, when he says, "I read your book," and Cage is like, "I chucked it." I chucked it. Because Caine goes, "I read your book," and Cage goes, like he's so disappointed and let down that his dad actually read the stupid book he's been trying to get him to read for years, because he knows it's terrible. Yeah, that movie, guys, if you're a fan of Nick Cage, watch The Weatherman. Gore Verbinski, it's so good. That's like a top movie for me. Yeah, and they rarely play it on the pay channels. They rarely play it on like TBS or TNT. But if you ever catch it, it's worth a watch, because it's a chill film.
all the way through, but it has a lot to say about relationships and about what it means at different stages of your life to have these relationships and how difficult they can be. It's kind of trying to show you like that there's not sometimes happy endings in the way that you think there'll be happy endings, and it's deconstructing those myths that we got fed for years in movies. And I love that about The Weatherman. And Nick Cage gets way too much crap for the fact that he creates these great minor little miracle movies on the side while he's also doing this other crazy stuff like Ghost Rider. There's also these great, beautiful performances, heartfelt performances. And I think those are the reasons why people love him. When they stumble on one of those films, they remember that he's got that gear inside him, and it makes him so charming and vulnerable and interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think also like he's just a very, very interesting creator, right? Like Spider-Man Noir is that's a great character. That's a great little like funny, just very nuanced and simple take that he has that adds a lot to that movie. I will forever be a Nick Cage guy. Like, not because I think everything he's done is good, because a lot of it's really bad.
Right,
but
of course.
I actually this is funny. Now we're back on Cage again. You remember That Thing You Do?
Of course, yeah, the Tom Hanks movie, yeah.
Yeah, so the singer in the band in The Wonders is my friend John, and he came on our show a couple years ago and came on to this big interview. We talked a little bit about this movie he was in called Arsenal that was coming out. It had like I think like Turturro, Adrian Grenier. No, it was Cusack. And Nick Cage, and it's there's this movie called Deadfall from way back when.
Oh yeah, I remember Deadfall.
And Arsenal's like sort of the sequel, even though Cage's character dies in Deadfall. He's back in Arsenal, and he puts on this big prosthetic nose. And so John Scheck is my friend. And he's telling me, he's like, okay, so I hear I'm going to book this movie, and I'm one of the 4 leads, and I'm going to work with Cage for the first time. And he's like, Cage is going to come in. We're going to get him for 2 days. And my big scene with him is this big, like sort of shakedown. Cage like a mob boss. He's sitting across the table, and he's like, so I show up, I'm all ready. I've learned my lines. Cage, about 10 minutes late, walks in. He's in this like maroon bell-bottom suit. He's got the big prosthetic nose on. He walks in, he struts over, sits down, and Scheck is just like, wow, this is intense. And Cage, I guess, sits down, he looks at me, he goes, hey Jonathan, let's do this. And then they just and he's like, and he goes, and for the next 6 hours, he did whatever, however, whenever he wanted. He's like, the guy threw a glass at my head at one point. and he's like, I was thinking that's dangerous. That's pretty dangerous, but man, did it get a good effect? I was like, man, that's the best. Like
he's earned that right to do these extra things, because you're like, if it works, it'll be great. If it works, it'll be
great. Right. One does.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, we got another one that came in. Chris Scorpio said, no questions, just wanted to support my favorite player of all time in John Rocha, and one of my favorite SD people of all time, Schmoedown people of all time in Ben. I love you guys. Love the content. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate that.
Very kind of you. Yes. Alex O'Neill Doney said, the dynamic in the exchange is almost as entertaining as, we already read that. I'm sorry, read that already. AK Torres said, hello, Outlaw Nation. I was supporting Rocha, Murrow for the last title match, but I respect how Ben conducted himself after losing the match and having a heated exchange with Rocha. Not many players would have been able to keep their cool. Respect. And then You Never Walk Alone, which is a Liverpool reference. It was a heated exchange after the match, for sure. But that that happens. That happens.
It does. And I think we can move on from that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with you 1,000%. Solskjaer 1999, he said, Rocha, have you seen Asia Capeda's movie on Diego Maradona? He also did Senna and Amy, just finished it. Brilliant stuff. Maybe miss football/sport even more. What's your favorite sports biopic film or documentary, gentlemen? So he's asking us both. I will say this, Asif Kapadia, I interviewed him for the Deep Cut. So yes, I saw Maradona. It was fantastic. And I got to sit down with him for an hour to talk about him making the film. If you haven't seen Maradona, you got to watch this documentary. It's on HBO, or you can catch it. I think it's free. I think it's one of those ones they've allowed to be free for people. Watch it. It is not just about a man who plays the sport at the highest level. It's about a man's journey from being a poor child thrust into this fame and how he dealt with it. So it's an incredible documentary, and Asif had so much to say about it. Plus, Asif is an incredible Liverpool supporter, so we bonded over that as well. What's your have you got a chance to watch that one yet, Ben?
I have not. No. In general, I don't connect to soccer, to football stories as much as others, because I didn't really watch a lot of it. I never have really had like my moment with it, but I was the same way with football and basketball at one time in my life, where I hadn't had my moment. I've almost had it with soccer. I've gotten close. And I think there probably will be a time in my life where that'll click, and then I imagine I'll dig and start watching all that stuff.
All right. Well, what about best sports film in your opinion, or best sports documentary in your opinion? Do you have one?
Well, my favorite movie of all time is Warrior.
There we go.
Which is a sports movie, and I think that's a movie that took a few years to really acknowledge that actually just is my favorite movie. Like it wasn't when I first saw it. It kept climbing up, and then finally kind of. And I think sports movies lend themselves really, really well to guys like us. I think guys like us that are very sort of A-type personality. We like movies, we like sports. We like, I think then that sort of the idea of overcoming the obstacle to reach success. Those underdog sports movies, because I can't remember what show I was on, but I was talking about this. Like, what great sports movie doesn't have the lead character as the underdog?
Right.
Almost exclusively sequels. Like it has to be like the second movie where they're now the champion, and then they get like, embarrassed. But like the first movie in any great sports movie is like pretty much only about underdogs.
Yeah.
That's like this general story.
Yeah, no one wants to see a film about the Yankees winning, how many games and getting all the best players. No one wants to see that, but you want to see a film about the Yankees like Bang the Drum Slowly, which is about a guy who's suffering through an illness and trying to stay on the team and win as many before he passes away. That's the kind of Yankees film you want to see, because that's an underdog film. You're absolutely right. Every sports film has to have an underdog thing, because just like you said, we gravitate for that, because I bet both of us feel like we're underdogs fighting to achieve something. But it's also leaving a legacy. It's leaving a legacy, like people remember you, and that's important. And both of us have done that in the Schmoedown. I don't mind saying that. I think that's very obvious that both of us have done that, and we're paving the way for other people to come down the road and do the same themselves. So
yeah. I mean, absolutely. Is that Bang the Drum? Is that De Niro?
Yeah, that's De Niro. Bang the Drum Slowly. Yeah. Fantastic little sports film.
Early mid-70s, yeah.
Yep, good call. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Brandon Buck said, Ben, in regards to your Prestige tweet from yesterday, this is a question for both of you. Best Chris Nolan film.
Okay, so this is funny. So Brandon Buckingham, first of all, big salute to General in the Action Army. I really appreciate you coming in here and hanging out. Love Brandon Bucks. Somebody I've gotten to know now over the last little while. I was sitting there watching The Prestige, a movie I've seen, I don't know, 10, 12 times. I texted you actually while I was watching it, which is funny. I'm sorry. I was watching Logan, and you said to me that The Prestige is your favorite. That's what it was. And so I went to rewatch it. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, movies that I love, like really, really, truly love, can still be boring. They can still have moments that don't totally engage me. And if I've seen them 2 or 3 times, I kind of lose interest. But The Prestige, I think that movie is perfect. I think that movie actually is so compelling. It's so intricate. It's so like incredible. The whole idea of the turn is really, really smart. You don't see it coming. When I watched it this time, I was just like, man, I like this movie probably more than any Chris Nolan movie from a just purely enjoyable viewer perspective. It's not his best movie, I don't think, but like, I don't think that movie has a single second you can cut out. I think that movie is perfect.
Yeah. I go back and watch the end of that movie a lot. I love that final scene when Jackman realizes how the whole trick worked.
Yeah.
And then you realize how many versions of a certain character, for those who, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't discovered the film yet, how many versions of a certain character existed in a certain way. And you're just like, that whole acting scene between the both of them is incredible, because you switch allegiances throughout that movie, depending on depending on what connects with you or doesn't connect with you. You switch 1 second, you're with Jackman, then you're with Bale, then you're back to Jackman, and then you're like, well, what's Scarlett's role in all this? So there's so much of twist and turn in Michael Caine, of course, and plus David Bowie as Tesla is fantastic. So really there's so much to savor in the movie. So yeah, that's still my favorite Christopher Nolan film overall. Yeah,
it's your number one. So I think I think that the best Christopher Nolan film is his best movie. I think like through and through, it's the most interesting, the most like inventive. It's really well told. It's very cool. It's well acted, huge stars. My favorite though, is Interstellar.
Great choice, man.
And not because I think Interstellar is better than the others, because it's definitely not. Interstellar has at least 40 minutes that are just like long and annoying.
Yeah.
But it is my single favorite movie score of all time. I like that score. I've probably listened to 1,000 times now. Like the Hans Zimmer score, the song Where We're Going. I can't even tell you how many times I've listened to it. And I love, I think especially that scene, which is funny because the first time I watched it, I was very disappointed by it and I didn't like this scene. But when he's in the fifth dimension and he's looking through that bookcase, and he's watching himself walk out of the room as he leaves Murph. It's that whole "Don't let me leave" Murph thing. And you're having this, he's begging to not leave, right? Even though he knows he's leaving to save the world. He knows that's what's happening. He's begging himself to stop doing the single most important thing he's ever done in his whole life. The most necessary thing he's ever done. He's begging himself to not do it. But it doesn't matter because the love that he has for his daughter and the idea that he could have spent his life with his daughter is more important in that moment than anything else. Literally the fate of the world. It's more important than that. And that's why that scene emotionally connects with me so much. And I just will always love that, I think, the most of any of the Nolan movies.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's a great choice, my man. Great choice. Let's see. Our next one is from, it's from Brendan Gallagher. Matthew McConaughey and Ben Foster in a horror thriller movie would be a great team up. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That would be fun.
Great. It'd be great, man.
Can't even imagine what that conversation would be like between these two guys before they get on screen, because Ben is intense. Ben Foster's intense in a whole separate way than McConaughey's intense, but it would be interesting to see their energies clashing in a film.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm a big Ben Foster guy. Love Ben Foster. Big fan of Lone Survivor. Actually, as a guy who served, I'm always curious to know if you, does that movie connect with you, or do you feel like it's too Hollywood?
It's not that it's too Hollywood. It's a bit too political in its point of view. And that's what I like 13 Hours. I think 13 Hours is a fantastically well done film from Michael Bay. When people bash Michael Bay, I always throw that film in their face and go, tell me that's a bad film. That is a well done military film. However, its point of view is a certain way that I don't feel comfortable with. I think Lone Survivor, the same thing, but it's a fantastic film to watch. It's gritty, it's scary, it's tragic with everything that happens here, but it's also one version of the story. So there are multiple versions you can go with in this situation or in other situations that happen in war. So you have to create the space for numerous interpretations to be filmed. And I think Lone Survivor certainly deserves to be in the conversation. And I think him and Wahlberg, when they hit it, they're really good, because I think Deepwater Horizon is a film people don't talk about enough. Good. Yeah, that's a damn good film with an untypical Mark Wahlberg performance, and I think that's great about that film too.
So, Film 44, which is Pete Berg's production company, incidentally, is they rent their space from our toy building.
Oh wow,
which is hilarious. So Berg and Wahlberg are constantly next door and parked out back, but because obviously it's a total separation for me, the toy business, the entertainment business, I've never met either one of them. I've never walked over there or tried to, because it just feels very much like I'm not going to mix church and state. But it is funny. I'll see Wahlberg like drive in his car sometimes. I'll see Pete Berg walk out sometimes on his phone, and I can hear editing of the movies through the wall because it's very loud, right? Like they're editing movies. I can hear the loud sound effects. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Peter Berg, Mark Wahlberg combo. I think some are better than others. I think Mile 22 is not great. I think Patriots Day was a little too soon. That movie doesn't feel great to watch. I don't love it.
Well, when you find out that Wahlberg is an amalgamation, that a character never even existed, that makes it difficult. He's essentially the Forrest Gump of that movie, that he seems to show up at all the critical moments throughout the movie. And you're just like, no guy would actually be at every one of these moments throughout a situation like this. It just wouldn't be logistically possible. And that kind of gave it some guff overall from a lot of people in Boston. I heard I saw online from a lot of people in Boston commenting how much they felt that film took license they didn't appreciate. So you're right. Some work way better than others, but overall it's a good combo when they hit it right.
Yeah, I think Foster's definitely a guy that I'm a big fan of. I think I got a lot of Taylor Kitsch stock too. I like Taylor Kitsch a lot. I think he doesn't always do the best work, but I think those two, and I think there's a couple moments in Lone Survivor specifically that really always kind of bring me to tears when I watch that movie, because it's really one of my favorites. And I love when they're so battered and they've fought, and Foster is, I mean, I'm spoiling the movie here, but Foster, it's called Lone Survivor, guys.
Mhm.
Ben Foster is not the lone survivor. In his moment, he looks over at Wahlberg and he's got like back of his head is shot off or whatever. And he looks at him, he grabs his arm and he's like talking about his girlfriend. And he says, I need you to talk to whoever. And I want you to let her know that I died with my brothers with a full fucking heart, is what he says. It's like his last line in the movie. And it's like that line when he says it always gets me because, you know, I wasn't a huge sports guy and I never served, but that idea of brotherhood, that kind of it, still does really connect with me for some reason. It really does.
Yeah, there you go. Finstock Exchange, brotherhood. Hell yeah. Let's see. Oscar donated. He said, this community has brought me a new family. Not just the Schmoedown family, but the Action Army family. The generals are my brothers and sisters. Speaking of family, love everyone there. Big salute to all of them. There you go, from Oscar. Shout out to him.
Oscar Roma, man, he's a 5-star general in the Action Army. This guy that I love to see in the chat here. It makes me happy to see those guys show up. So thank you, Oscar, so much for showing up and hanging out.
Definitely. Jake Yacovetta threw up some money in here. He said, I might give 4 salutes, but I'll never throw up the 5. All right.
Jake,
well,
yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, Jake's great. Well, we don't need Tar Heels in the Finstock Exchange. No offense. No offense. Let's jump into a couple of super chats here. Tharshi says, what are the chances that Ghai giving back the mask leads to Ghai being traded into the exchange? This is the conversation based on the 2 cutscenes that were shown here on the match between Brittany Young and Jader Paramount, I think is his last name. Finstock getting the mask from Ghai, and then that 70s little mini 30-second clip of Finstock is back. What's your thoughts on this question and the overall scenes?
Well, the first thing I got to say is that Tharshi, just last week, brand new general in the Army. So I got to give a shout out there. That makes me happy to see you in here. But the answer to the question is Andrew Ghai is somebody who I talk to on a daily basis. And I do not know who he wants to be traded to. He has not revealed it to me. He has been clear. He won't tell me who. So I don't know where he wants to go. I don't know what he's interested in. I think the idea that he could be traded to the exchange is a little dubious because honestly, guys, as it stands right now, you've now seen the Who's the Boss, the Odd Couple match. So we're nowhere near number 6 ranked. We're definitely top 5. So the founding fathers are the champs. You can't break up teams. So who on the usual suspects could you pair with Ghai to get either team? Really? Yeah. Who do they have that we would actually give away, Riley and myself, or you and Dan for? And I think the answer is nobody. So like, unless somebody loses, gets knocked out of the top 5, there's some shenanigans in the exchange. It's a tough sell. I don't think that's going to happen right now with the current rankings.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. But I know with Ghai, he's always got something up his sleeve. He's always thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else. So sometimes it blows up in his face and sometimes it works out. So certainly it's something to keep tabs on. No doubt. No doubt. So we'll see what happens. And Finstock getting the beard back. I'm one of these guys that has no problem with it. I actually like Finstock with the beard. I like that he's irreverent and he'll do his thing. He might even be a better manager, and that should scare everybody in the Schmoedown for real. Let's see here. Team Action. Let's see. Can I throw this one up? Yeah. Team Action reunion as babyface / tweeners. That's certainly something people ask for all the time. I get the same questions all the time. When's Matt Nose coming back? When's Team Top 10 getting reunited? That's probably never going to happen. But this possibility is certainly, since you're both still active in the league, is something people start to clamor for more and more as the months go on, my man.
It's been longer since we were Team Action than we were actually in Team Action.
Wow.
So that's something to put in perspective there for people. It's hard to even really fathom. It's been so long since we played a match as Team Action. But, as a league historian, somebody who definitely knows the heel and face looks as well as anyone, John, I'd ask you, if Team Action came back tomorrow, let's throw aside any of the faction stuff.
Okay.
We're talking about like Action as they were. We were the same team that we were. Do you think it would even work, or do you think that gimmick would be old? We'd have to come up with something kind of a little bit new.
It's a great question, man. And I'll give you my honest answer. I think it would feel like you guys were treading the same ground you tread already. You've both kind of established yourself individually as entities. And the team was where you started to start this process of getting people to like believe in you guys as competitors and buy into the idea of you guys being successful Schmoedown players. If you guys were to come together down the road, it could be like a super team down the road. I think that's certainly a possibility, but you'd have to actually, I think team action is what you did at the beginning. I think you would have to come up with something incredibly new when you guys got together, because like just like me and Dan, like I was the one who came up with the idea of the founding father, calling us founding fathers. I thought it was arrogant. I thought it was kind of could mess with people's heads, and I wanted to see people's reactions to it, and I wanted to move away from anything that was related to Team Top 10 or Team Champs. I wanted us to be something completely different. Dan agreed with it. We went forward. I think once you two get back together again, if it does happen, it'll be interesting to see what you two work out, because you both kind of made your own way. And, I watched your stream over the weekend. Andrew flat out admits he is a superstar in the league. That's what he called himself. So that says volumes. I know you don't say that about yourself. So it's two different ideologies.
No. I'll cut you off right there, actually. Okay. And I'll say that I actually do. Okay. And I have the same hesitance to say it that he did then, because I think it's an arrogant thing to say. It's not like you want to go around saying it a lot, but I would imagine you would say the same thing about yourself. I'd have a hard time believing you wouldn't.
I don't say that. I never say that because it's just not my thing. But I didn't begrudge Andrew saying it, because I think it's good to have confidence in yourself and what you can do and your status and your place in a league. I don't think he said it arrogantly at all, but I do think he believes that about himself, and that's not a negative. That's how you succeed. And so, and you're saying you say the same thing. So it could be interesting.
John, I think it's also just a fact, right? So if I was going to think about the Schmoedown and not based on like social media followings or stream numbers, but like literally like when I think about it as a fan, because I'm still the biggest fan, like I still love the league more than anything. Mm-hmm. And I think about, okay, who right now today feels like the biggest 5 stars, like the ones that sell the league, main eventers, the ones that if you put them in a match, it's going to elevate even someone whose interest is like down here, right?
Yeah.
It feels to me like right now, and obviously it's always about who's hot, but it's like yourself and Dan, Andrew, myself, Mike Kalinowski.
Yeah.
Of the active players. Rachel's not active right now, and I think Rachel would be in that category if she was.
I think Smets is on the cusp.
To me, Smets feels like probably about number 6, I would argue. And I think you have some other people in there like, hit one time or another could really shoot up there. I think, Bibiani definitely draws numbers. People like to see him. He's a big star. I think Riley, obviously. But if you're really talking about it just based on heat, like the wrestling term heat, who's got the heat? Those 5, that's the 5 right now, today, that if you're booking a match, will sell it. And I think that's kind of what he's getting at when he says that, is that, if you put Guy in a match against, James White, all the way up to Dan Murrell, it's going to sell tickets. Yeah, I think it's kind of the point. And I think that's why he says it. And so I do feel like now today, if Team Action was to reform, there would have to be a new angle, because what happens if we come out there and it's debonair and the boss and we lose our first match? It's not really a good look for anyone. Like we have to figure out a way to create something lasting so that win or lose, we are still relevant.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it past you guys to do it. You guys have done it so well before, so it wouldn't be surprising to see you guys do it again in a new and exciting way, for sure. Let's get back to some more of these Streamlabs. I expected to go further into your story here, but we got so many people sending stuff in, man, which speaks volumes about them wanting to hear from us. PLD says, not a movie, but True Detective season 4. How about Ed Harris and Nick Cage?
Oh, PLD, the legend. Come on. I mean, that's as good as it gets. Like I'd lose it. I mean, how good would that be?
Yeah, right. You knew PLD was going to find a way to slide Ed Harris in somehow, but this would be an interesting combo of Nick Cage and Ed Harris. I just want to be on set to see how many times Ed Harris goes, just take the plugs out, man. Just take the hair plugs out, man. Embrace the baldness. Embrace the baldness, dude. Andrew Hale says, talking about one of our greatest modern directors like Christopher Nolan, what is your favorite Denis Villeneuve film? Thanks, guys.
For me, it is pretty clearly Prisoners. Okay. There are moments and scenes in a lot of his movies that I just adore. Like, I think the border crossing in Sicario is amazing. I think Blade Runner 2049 is generally just pretty awesome. I think Arrival's just a great movie. But for me, Prisoners is the movie that when I watch it, I'm like, it's like everything I want. It's like the intensity, the anger. Like I even say this, but like the moment in that movie that gets me the most is not when Jackman is going crazy. It's actually I think he gets a phone call and he realizes that he has to leave the house to go do something that he's not telling his wife.
Right.
And he grabs his son by the shoulders and he looks at him and he says like something like, "You need to be strong now. You need to take care of your mother." Or so, and he says it with this intensity. It's like this desperate intensity. His son is terrified. Like it's like a father-son moment where he's just looking at him and he's like, "My dad is not saying this to me in like a calm moment. He's losing control. He's leaning on me to take care of the family, and he's going to go do something that he's not even sure is okay or is going to work." I can see it in his eyes. Yeah. That moment right there to me is like why that movie is special, because it pushes someone to like the limits of what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And Jackman goes way past it, which I love.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, man. It's a fantastic, fantastic film in that way, and a great performance from Jackman and Terrence Howard. Both of those gentlemen deliver some fantastic, and Melissa Leo is great as well. I love Melissa Leo whenever she gets to do those kind of characters. Yeah, whenever she gets to like unwind in those characters, she's so good to watch. Ferris Mathunas in a super chat said, "I will not tolerate Tar Heel slander, you overrated Seminole, LOL." There you go, Ferris Mathuna. So angry. I try to get him to see a psychiatrist, but he won't do it.
Ferris Mathuna is a 5-star general. John, give him some credit. Come on, the guy's a legend.
You might want to take a star off of him. I'm just saying. Okay, let's move on. Soulshire99 says, "What's the best action movie of the last 10 years, guys? The Mission Impossible series was always good, notably 3, but Fallout floored me. I felt like a kid watching the movies again. Explosive blockbuster stuff." What do you say there, Ben?
Well, the chalk answer is Fury Road, which I think most people would probably agree. It was on most lists as the #1 movie of the last 10 years anyway. I think for me though, it's that and Fallout come really high. I love the action in John Wick 2, but I like John Wick 1 more. So I probably would say, and I mean, Sicario, we just mentioned, has some amazing action, but I think probably the honest answer is Fury Road. The stunts in that movie are like on a different level.
Yeah. I think Fury Road's a great choice. I would have to say, because it's just under the wire, The Raid. The Raid is probably one of the greatest action films I've ever seen, because it isn't just sometimes if you can make the action work in a singular building, that says volumes about what you were able to do with your film. So that's one I jumped to. Certainly Fury Road. I would never argue Fury Road. That's a fantastic film. I always get mad at Scott Mantz when he calls it a 2-hour car chase. You're insane to even say that. It's an incredible film. There's so much more going on. But John Wick 3, which I recently rewatched again, that may be my favorite of the 3. And there's great action sequences within that film as well.
Not for me. I think John Wick 2 and 3 both. 2 is better because it's overly long, but it's like kind of builds the world. 3 is like very, very like offensively long. It's like just too many scenes that are just, there's no stakes and it's outrageous. The action's amazing. The action itself is incredible, but I didn't like 3 as much. A lot of people love 3. That movie really falls flat for me.
All right, respect. All right, this is from Brendan Gallagher. He says, "You guys can have a great rivalry on the field of the Schmoedown, but still respect and have a great friendship and brotherhood off the field. I do the same with my best friends and brothers on the basketball court." Yeah, that's we're competitive people, and we like to win, and that's what comes through. But I think we're figuring out how to communicate that desire to win in a way that's respectful to each other as our friendship grows.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, and obviously, like we talked about earlier, our goals are not so different. So you're competitive, and Schmoedown and in life, we both want similar things. And I think finding a way to communicate about that in a way that encourages each other is important.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. All right, Raven says, "Hey, Ben and John from Palau, jumping off the war movie talk, which battle/war scene from any movie or series look the most real? It could be from any genre. And which one is your favorite? Thanks, and I'll gladly throw up that 5 for the exchange." Respect.
Interesting. I think I would actually argue, and I don't actually know your story that well. I don't know if you saw Combat, so I don't know if it's you've seen it in person, but I still believe you would have a much better point of view on this than myself. I think the stock answer to that is, I think Saving Private Ryan, the opening scene, is pretty amazing. It's a pretty famous, very classic, incredible scene. I loved loved to pieces 1917. I thought like some of the realities that happen in that movie and some of the stuff you see was probably a little closer to home than people actually gave credit. Like him crawling out of the river over the dead bodies, and the plane going down, the enemy stabbing a guy. Like there's a lot of stuff in that movie that feels to me like that's probably a little more the quieter, realer moments. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you 1,000%. Saving Private Ryan is, I remember crying in the theater after that. And I was just a few years out of basic training when I saw that movie, and had been serving for a number of years before I saw that movie. That opening sequence, and I did not see a theater of war. I didn't serve in a theater of war for whatever reason. It just didn't kind of fall to me, and nor did I want to volunteer when they looked for volunteers at the time, because I was more focused on getting my degree in college. I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I could die necessarily, but I would have gone if they had said, hey, your platoon is going. I go with bells on, because that's what I signed up to do, defend my country. But I mean, this Saving Private Ryan opening sequence is still one that gets me very emotional, because you see the cost, you see the real cost of what these people went through. And it's so funny you bring up 1917, man, because I literally said that as I was walking out of the theater. I think it was with Perry. I said to her, this is the most realistic war film I've seen since the opening of Saving Private Ryan. And it does take you, you feel it, everything, the dust in the mouth coughing, the situation where you don't expect a moment of goodness or breaking the enemy versus the enemy situation, and being kind to an enemy comes back to bite you. Those kinds of things are the things you don't factor in, and they are the unusual nature of war. And so I thought 1917 certainly perfectly captured that in a chilling way that stays with you afterwards, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was I did really love Parasite, and I really was happy to see it win. But 1917 was my pick for best of the year. I thought that movie was absolutely incredible. I hate to do it, John, but I got to use the restroom really quickly. Can
go ahead, man. Do your thing, man. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for Ben's going off to use the restroom. We're going to finish up asking your Streamlabs and your super chats. We're going to get to all the people who've been sitting here live waiting to come on and talk as well. I wanted to get into Ben's background and find out a little more about him, but you all have been sending such great Streamlabs and super chats in that we're just focusing on that for now. When Ben comes back, here, I'll take him down for now. When Ben comes back, I'll put him back up. How crazy that my camera stopped working. What if I switched my camera back again and see what happens? Let's see here. If I switch to the webcam, any chance it's done? No, it's still dark. So I don't know what that setting is that I hit, but it messed me up big time on the webcam. So hopefully at some point we'll figure that out. Wiley, how's the show going, man?
It's good, man. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Keep on putting that link, guys. If you guys want to join and queue up, you're more than likely to.
There you go. We're going to get to it. Who else is in here? Sean Barreto's in here. We're going to get to Sean in just a second. Good to see you, my man. Brandon Bucks is up here.
How are you doing, John?
Good. We're going to get to see you guys in just a second. As soon as Ben comes back, from Draining the Boss, he'll be back soon. And they got Suge Knight in here too. Hopefully,
but you can't see him because of the overlay.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh, yeah. Hopefully his wife doesn't come by naked, so we put him beneath the overlay as much as possible. Who else we got in here? And then, of course, we got is that Brennan? Brennan's getting here as well. So we'll definitely get to all you guys as soon as Ben comes back. Good to see you, Brennan.
Good to sort of be seen, I guess.
Just be patient. As soon as Ben comes back, we'll swing back into these things and do it. So thanks, guys, for holding on. Appreciate it. All right, well, there it is. I don't know what I'm going to do. What do we figure out about this camera situation? Maybe my camera just finally blew out. The webcam, the webcam finally just blew out once and for all, and I'm in some trouble here. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what happened. Maybe if I just put it on auto, we'll figure it out. But anyway, let's bring Ben back in here now that he's back from using the restroom and draining the boss himself. So let's do our thing. Let's keep going. Let's see. Damian Chambers said, "Hey guys, great meeting you two and Dagnino in Atlanta. Rocha, what are your final thoughts on The Outsider? Just finished, and I absolutely loved it. Big Horseman fan. Are there any teams that you guys think can take the throne from The Exchange?" Wow. Well, let me start with The Outsider. Absolutely loved it. I really didn't expect to love it. Thought it was going to be a grind but it ended up being very, very interesting. My girlfriend and I just tore through it in 2 days. Great performances from Jason Bateman and Ben Mendelsohn and Julianne Nicholson, who I think is an actress people need to be talking about way more than they do. If you have Hulu, watch her in Monos. Monos is a fantastic film. She's great in that. So I enjoyed The Outsider. I liked the supernatural element of it. I didn't know that was a situation going in, but once it revealed itself, it was great. Did you see The Outsider, Ben, or no?
No, I think I joked about it earlier today, but I kind of have stopped watching TV. I hate to say it, and I don't feel good about it because I used to love television so much, but I haven't watched TV in a long time because I just feel this like level of guilt, this OCD guilt on Schmoedown. I have to watch movies.
That's fair enough. Do you think there's any teams out there that can take the throne from the exchange, Ben Bateman?
I think there's some pretty strong new teams. I think the one that really comes to mind is Final Exam. I think they're pretty. I think Paul and Lon is a pretty unstoppably incredible team. I think also Tom and Paul. Really strong team. I think both of those teams have. I think Deep 13 is flawed. I don't think they're for real. I know they're on a run right now. I think, or they won one match or something. But I think they're good, and I think they've got. But to me, it feels like I don't believe yet that Duralde or Seibold actually know how to play the game. And so, and I'll say it. I mean, honestly, like those veterans of Schmoedown, those guys that came in from the era you and I were joking about earlier today on Backstage, where it's like these guys where it was all about like pride, like who knows the most.
Right.
A lot of those guys are movie critics for a reason. They didn't play sports. They weren't like that's not a thing they paid attention to. They didn't have that gear. And if you don't pay attention to sports, you don't have that gear, then it's very hard to see what we're doing as something more than just who can answer the most questions, which is not what it is. Like, that's why when like Odd Couple challenged Riley and I to an Ironman match, it's like, no, we set the record. We beat you using strategy, not Ironman questions. That's that. Yeah.
That's to me, the Ironman argument is always the scared team or scared players cop out way out. I really do. I think it's a cop out. Bibiani tried to convince Christian to do an Ironman match for me and him for the belt when he was going to defend it against me. And Christian was like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know what the situation is. Step up to the plate. And that when you start to challenge somebody to an Ironman match, that's all about the fact you don't have confidence in the game, your abilities in the second, third, fourth, and fifth rounds. And that to me is it's not the game. That's not the game. It's a fun exhibition match. But I don't think it's the game, in my opinion. So,
can I ask you a question? And this is, I don't mean to challenge you on this, but only because this is a conversation you have had on air before. The spinner's opponent's choice thing, and how your comment on that is that it's supposed to be knowledge versus knowledge. That's what
that's just my point of view. Yeah.
No, I know. But I'm saying, so the difference between an Ironman match, which is obviously all one type of question, there's no gameplay to it. How different do you see the concept of knowledge versus knowledge than just a straight Ironman match? I mean, there's obviously gameplay, but like, you know what I'm saying? When you say knowledge versus knowledge, do you think it should be won by the person that knows more, or?
No. I think when I say knowledge versus knowledge is more of a, and I hate to say this word, I don't want people to get upset, but it's more of a nuanced approach to it, I take, in my opinion. And knowledge versus knowledge in a 5-round match or 3-round match, where anything can happen, the base is that it's knowledge versus knowledge. Everything else is what makes the game. The unknowing, the X factors, the spinning of the wheel, things of that nature, getting a category you're not strong in, picking a number about from a category that you're not strong in, and got to get a question that you're not strong in, things of that nature. Those are all like kind of unknowable variables in the game. But the base foundation is that it's knowledge versus knowledge in a 3-round match. Now, in an Ironman match, it's knowledge versus knowledge, but it's just knowledge versus knowledge. There's no gameplay. And to me, I like the combo of knowledge versus knowledge plus the gameplay. It allows a little bit of a common foundation going forward. With spinner's choice and opponent's choice, to me, you're giving the wheel way more power over the game versus you as competitors having power over the game with your knowledge. So that's just how I approach it. And I think you turned me around on this with your strong defense of it. And I had to kind of take a step back and be like, you know what? You need to take some of your own medicine here and create space for other people to approach the game in different ways and have their own way to do it. And so in in that way, I can publicly say here now for the first time, I'll absolutely apologize and take that back, because I didn't understand that, you know what, there's just a different, if I'm going to say people need to respect my approach to the game, I must also give that to other people in the game who approach it differently and go, you know what, putting spinner's choice and opponent's choice is perfectly fine in the championship game. So I have to create the space if I'm going to ask people to create space for my perception or a point of view.
I appreciate you saying that. And I also think that, like, you know, your point was sound when you said it, which is that back then we didn't have a choice. Because I said it earlier today on Backstage, but like, the evolution of the game is that we don't get like a firm list of here's the 15 things you can do. Like, that's never happened. You kind of hear from someone, you find out on the day of the match, oh, someone did this. Okay, I'm going to try this. Like, that's always how it's been. And it's not great, but like, that's just the nature of an evolving and growing sports league. And so, you know, you won matches, obviously, in days when there was no spinners and opponents on the wheel, but that's not your fault. That's just what happened. So
exactly,
it is what it is.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. Let's see here. I'm going to jump into two more super chats, but let me take out these Streamlabs first. Jake Iacovetta donated some more. He says FSU may have won the last matchup, but North Carolina has a 50-14 record against y'all scrubs. That's true. You do, but not in football. You don't. Brendan Gallagher said, "Fury with Brad Pitt and the great cast. The tank scene when they tell the recruit to shoot all Nazis, no matter what, no matter if they are dead or not." Yeah, I like that. I like that film. What's your feeling about Fury? I love Fury. What do you think about it?
I watched half of it on an airplane, and I liked it enough, but I felt like it didn't have anything in it that really like compelled me to go finish it. So I didn't dislike it. I think it's hard to disconnect from it being Brad Pitt at that point in his career. He has to work pretty hard nowadays, I feel like, to not just feel like he's Brad Pitt. Like, interesting. Okay. Unfortunately, like, I think Once Upon a Time is a great example of where it's like, it doesn't even bother me. I am watching Brad Pitt, but it doesn't bother me. Like, it's he has to really be in a good piece of material now from when I watch it to not feel myself distracted. I like that Shia was in there. You know, it's a good role for him. And the cast is great. Barenthal and Pena, Michael Pena. But that movie never stuck with me. But I didn't finish it, so I can't.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like David Ayer. Except, you know, everything aside from Suicide Squad, I've always enjoyed of his stuff. You know, he's a masculine filmmaker. I like that. I think you have, like, once again, to me, it's about different types of directors, different types of approaches to things. And I think I like David Ayer. I like Gavin O'Connor. I like Joe Carnahan. I like the more muscular filmmakers doing their films and creating.
James Mangold.
Yeah, James Mangold, creating space for those concepts to still be around. Yes, you can have these other films that are more like, you know, kumbaya, but I like these other ones that can be busting through, because sometimes you need a little masculinity in the world, just like you need a little femininity in the world. You got to have the balance of both in this crazy little world that we got going on. Let's see. Jillian Marie sent in a super chat. She said, Sully is sick in bed at the moment. Just wanted to say hello. And Sean and I miss you both so much. Also, hope you've been studying on your Star Wars, Rocha. Yeah, well, there you go.
Thanks for tuning in, Jilly. Well, I'm sorry to hear Sean's sick. You know, I've been sick for weeks, man. So I feel you completely. But you know, get better, and you know, you're going to beat Rocha. So.
That's right. You're gonna at some point, I'm gonna figure out the Star. I mean, like, listen, April was supposed to be the month of Star Wars, but the COVID-19, all this stuff threw it off. That being said, I do have a new Star Wars show coming on the Outlaw Nation show or Outlaw Nation channel, and that's a way to kind of get myself back sharp about the game and about the movies, and get back into getting sharp about Star Wars in the game, in the Schmoedown game. We'll see down the road how that all plays out for itself. But much love to both of you, as Ben just said. Let's see, right here, right now, Outlaw versus the Boss. Who wins? I don't know, to be honest with you. I toss my hands up. I think it's a pick'em at this point. Both Ben and I have done what we've done in the league, and Ben has come along so quickly over the last year. I think it would be fun to play Ben again. I'm sure there's not going to be a 5-pointer from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to bail me out this time around, so it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think if John and I play it again today, if it's right here, right now, probably John wins, because John is older. He's watched more movies. He's diligently watched movies for a long time. And if I don't have the element of preparation and strategy against other legends who have a little more life experience, it's a difficult balance, right? I'm not gonna say right now that I can pound for pound take on every player. That's not what it is. If you put me up against Ethan Irwin right now, I'd probably get crushed. I need my time, my preparation. I need to be able to actually prepare for the match and think about how I'm going to handle it, which is why you saw, I was one question away from defending against the greatest of all time based on purely preparation. I mean, that match was basically purely preparation, which I was really proud of.
Yeah, look, Ben may say that, but I thoroughly think Ben has every possibility to beat me if we go toe-to-toe now. Absolutely. I take nothing for granted against Ben Bateman, and I'd prepare differently. I'd absolutely prepare differently than I prepared from the first time when we played. So it'd be a different, because I was also in a different mindset back then. And Roxy doesn't believe this when I told her this after the match. I wanted you to beat me because I was just like, I'm not studying anymore. I don't have confidence. I don't like the Schmoedown anymore. I'm mad at it at this point. It's taking too much time away. I don't know where I fit in it anymore. So I went into that situation just like expecting to lose or thinking you were going to beat me, and it happened to work out that I beat you. Then I beat Andrew, and that was a different motivation to beat him and got into to win the belt against Bibbs. But like when we played, I just wasn't in that space, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's Ben's time. Let him go on ahead. Now I'm in a different place now. Now no one else's story is the story I need to follow. Only my story is the story I need to follow, win or lose. And I like that. That has given me a little more relaxed freedom when I play now.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. All right, let's jump in, Ben. If you don't mind, let's bring some people in live to ask us some questions before we kind of wrap this thing up. Hard to believe we've already been on for almost an hour and a half. It's gone by so quickly. So let me drop this thing here and let me bring some people on. Wiley, you wanted to ask a question. You've been helping all night, moderating in the chat, doing all the things you're doing on Discord. What do you got to say to the boss and the outlaw, man? Yeah, fix your hair. Yeah, really. That's
well.
It was good to see you, Wiley. Good to see you, man.
Sorry, man. How you doing, Ben? How's the coronavirus thing going for you?
It's fine. I mean, longer story, but we're 50-50 on whether or not I actually have COVID. But I've been quarantined for 5 weeks, so it's great.
Wait a minute. Are you joking, or have you been quarantined because they thought you might have this? I have not heard this.
Oh, it's a longer story, but the gist of it is that I got a cold the Tuesday of the week we all went into national emergency back at the beginning of March. Yeah, and I have been quarantined ever since. Literally, I've been quarantined a week longer than anyone, and I have had various symptoms, but none that are severe. I've had like very small ones, and so when I spoke to a doctor over telemedicine, he basically said like, you're not tested, but we have to assume it's COVID based on the one symptom you're saying. So stay quarantined for this much longer. And so I've just kind of been, like cooped up in my home. So
oh shit, dude, I didn't know that. All right. I didn't know that. All right. Well, then I'm sending you some positive thoughts, brother, and hopefully you get through it. And maybe I'll send you something off air. We'll have a conversation about it because I didn't know about this happening for you. And I remember through your back surgery, one of the greatest things I ever did for myself was coming over to see you. And I don't mean for myself in a selfish way. I mean like coming over to connect and get to know you more. That was a really a great few hours I spent with you. So I'd, if anything's going on that you need, I want to be available to you in that way. So sorry to hear that you're dealing with that, man.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone who's wondering, I mean, my symptoms are tiny. Like I said, it mostly feels like I've got a little bit of smoke in my lungs most of the time. And otherwise I've got nothing. I got no soreness. I can work out. I can, all the things that are normal. I just, for whatever reason, can't seem to get rid of this. So I'm actually getting tested officially this week, finally. So that's a story in itself.
Well, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. Wiley, what's your question after bringing everybody down? What's your question now? Jesus Christ.
Well, I was checking on people, John, because I am a considerate human being.
You are.
Okay, so my question for you, Ben, is I got to ask you, this is routine. What's your thoughts on the greatest movie of all time?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The Color of Money with the great Paul Newman, which is my hero, my favorite actor, Tom Cruise. Together, the greatest combination, the greatest movie of all time for me. What's your thoughts on it?
Huge, enormous fan. Paul Newman is my favorite actor of all time, and Tom Cruise is like top 5. So, I mean, that's an incredible combination. Obviously, the return of Fast Eddie Felson after the immaculate film Hustler, which is so good. So at this point, so underrated. It's so good. But I adore The Color of Money. I actually think Cruise in the pool hall dancing to what's it called?
Werewolves of London.
Yeah, Werewolves of London.
Werewolves of London.
Yeah, him dancing to that song when he's playing against Modell is one of the great scenes of all time in Cruise's career. I think there's God, when Newman plays against Whitaker and you really show him your ass. That whole fucking movie, man. I love that movie. That's a top 50 movie for me all time.
Fair enough. Whoa.
Boom, Rocha.
There you
You're
go.
on my level, Rocha.
Wiley, he said top
You
50.
crushed me on that
Top
movie.
50, Wiley.
If you look at that, you look at the other streams, I get trashed on for this movie
You
more
do.
than any human being ever. Okay.
You do.
Finally, someone agrees with
I will say, Wiley,
me.
that
This is great.
the reason I think Newman is phenomenal in that movie, but I think everybody kind of knows the reason he won for that movie is because they were idiots and they decided in 1982 that he didn't win over Attenborough for Ben Kingsley for Gandhi and
For absence of malice.
God, who watches Gandhi? Legitimately, The Verdict is one of my, God, I don't even know, like 20 favorite performances ever. He's so good in that movie.
He's incredible.
He should have won for that. And Color of Money, he's amazing, but he really should have won for The Verdict.
Verdict is one of those films that I discovered at the time in the 80s, and you watch it and you're like, why don't more people talk about this movie? It's such a heartbreaking, gritty look at a dude who's on the backside of life and the betrayals and the struggles. And this is Paul Newman as an ambulance chaser. I mean, that opening scene in the funeral is like, oh my God. And then you and then when you see the betrayal that he endures near the end of the movie, you're just like, it just would knock any normal person out. And the fact that Paul keeps pushing forward because there is a noble fight to be had here, even though he's not the most noble person to take it on, is an incredible ask of you as a viewer. And he does such a phenomenal job in that movie overall. So great choice with The Verdict.
When he shows up, he's talking to the Cardinal and he's like, I can't, he goes, I came here to get your money. I came here to take your money. I brought pictures to take your money. But I can't do it. I can't do it. That scene, dude, if that does make you cry when he does it, it's incredible.
It's so good. Yeah. And then when he gets confronted by that character actor that's always in all the Boston films, he goes, "Who are you? You come here? Who are you to tell me? We wanted to do it. They offered us money. You didn't."
The brother.
The brother. It's so good.
I think what he says is, "I can't do it because if I do, I'm lost," is what he says. That's the line. And that when he says that line, you realize you're like, anybody who's ever struggled in their life, anyone who's ever gone through like a moment where they're like, this is questionable, but I know that if I do this thing, this easy thing, it's going to throw me so far in the wrong direction, I'll never come back. Right. That's what he's saying. I think that's such an incredible realization. So Wiley, I love Color of Money. I love Newman.
There you go.
I got one more quick question.
God damn it, Wiley. All right, make it quick.
Sorry. Very quickly. Okay. So I'm still going through Paul Newman's filmography because he's my second favorite actor. Yeah. And there's a couple I haven't seen. The most recent one I saw for the first time was Slapshot. So I haven't seen The Verdict, but what would be another one that you recommend me watching? Well, I've seen like some of the mainstreams besides Sting, but I've seen pretty much most of the mainstream stuff he's done. Okay, so I think that his most underrated at this point is actually Road to Perdition, which is that's one of my favorite movies of all time, Ben. One of my favorite movies of all time. That scene when he's underground, right? And he's like, Michael, open your eyes, right? That we chose this life, whatever he says. That's amazing. But he's amazing in that. If you haven't seen The Hustler, it's so good. Of course, I've seen that. I think probably you mentioned Absence of Malice, Rocha from '81. He gets the Oscar nom for that one. Yep. And I think the movie itself is okay, but he's good in it. It's a good watch. Yep. The one that I'd probably tell you is, have you seen Nobody's Fool? Yeah. Great. Someone for a school paper. I watched that one for a school paper. That one's really, really good. He's really good in Nobody's Fool. And then I think you can watch HUD. Have you seen HUD? HUD's a good classic. I haven't seen HUD. HUD's weird. He plays a really dark, really weird character in HUD, but that's a good one. That's like a top choice. I'll throw you over to a smaller Western of his, Hombre. If you haven't seen Hombre, where he's playing half Native American guy, half white guy, who these people who are all these white people who are being attacked by these villains.
they initially don't want to have anything to do with him because he's a half-breed. That's what they call him in the movie. And then they eventually have to rely on him to save them against the villains who have them trapped on some abandoned mine shaft. That's an incredible film about racism, but also about the West and the Westerns and things. And he is great in that film. When you juxtapose that with Burt Lancaster, that terrible Native American film he did, this is more of a realistic interpretation of something like that. I'd throw in Fort Apache, the Bronx. If you haven't seen the Fort Apache, the Bronx, get ready for that damn movie. That's an incredible movie from Paul Newman. And I would throw in, what's the other one that I was, Blaze. If you haven't seen Blaze, he is great in Blaze, essentially playing Huey Long, a very famous Southern politician. Him and Lolita Davidovich do a fantastic job together in that film. So just giving you some stuff to think about.
Cool. That's actually a few that I haven't seen.
Young Philadelphians is also a really underrated movie.
Yeah,
I think
I like that one a lot. Yeah.
Early one, yeah. Good shot. Thanks, Wiley. Appreciate you chumming in, brother. Let's go into Sean Barrett. So, Sean, what's going on, my man?
How's it going, brother?
How are you, brother? How's it going?
It's okay. Remember, it's okay for you to say that, John.
I can.
I gave you permission.
As long as I put the R at the end, I'm all right. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Remember, so you're honorary New Yorker as well. How's it going, Ben?
Good, man. Good to see you. I like when you come on here and you make fun of John. That's good for me. So it's good to see you.
Me and John we're on the kind of the same wavelength, so it's all in fun. It's all in fun.
That's good.
Right. So to Ben, actually you introduced me to the Killer's Demand song. The first time I heard that song, I was like, I gotta know what song that is, because that's one of my favorite songs and I can listen to it all day, every day now. So thank you for that.
You got him. The first time I heard that song was in the trailer for Vice, the Adam McKay movie with Christian Bale as Dick Cheney. I remember I heard it in the trailer and I watched the trailer like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, well, you know what? That's pretty cool. And he seems pretty cool, even though Cheney's not very cool. I wonder if would that work to enter in? And so I, decided to look it up, and there you go.
Yeah, good song.
I'm gonna miss you not coming out to that song now. But I got 2 things. One is I was interested about like your guys is talking about really quick about like your journeys to the belt. Like you guys could pitch this to Christian. You could take credit for it if you want. Like you guys can make the Schmoedown can make like a documentary series about people's first kind of road to getting their first title. So John, when you beat Dan for the first time, and Ben, when you won the title for the first time, your kind of roads to winning the belt the first time where you two and Clark Wolf, I think, have very interesting stories on your road to getting your first title. And I think it would also be interesting just to kind of revisit that in a way like for example, John, you interviewing Dan, kind of your thoughts about going up to that moment. And I think my second question is also, can you guys talk about a little bit about the behind the scenes of the Team Action versus Top 10 Part 2 with the tackle? I mean, I'm sure you guys talked about it before. I haven't heard you talk about it. So if you could talk about a little bit, kind of like who pitched the idea, like what's it going to change depending upon who won or who lost? Was it always going to be Andrew that did it? Like, can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Can we, Ben? What can we say about that?
Yeah,
I'll let you take the lead on this one.
So I think the first point that you make about the first belt, I think right now the kind of documentary that we're going to be able to get out of the Schmoedown is like the kind that John got, which is this is the all-time character in the league, so he's going to get a documentary about his story. And I think if we get bigger sooner, I know the league will get bigger, but when it does, you can start to think about like, this Jordan documentary that's come out, The Last Dance, about his final season. Yeah, you can start thinking about stuff like that, where it's like, one season, one run, a whole story about that. I think it might happen. As far as the top 10 Team Action stuff, I think, what had happened, we can talk about it at least loosely, is that we had this big run and we were full of confidence, and John and I didn't know each other very well. That whole rivalry, we were like friendly, but not friends yet. Yeah. And so we got that first win and we definitely got in their heads. I mean, that first win was like the crown jewel of the early Team Action run. Like, it was a big team. We finally proved something, and we got not smoked, but definitely beaten by above the line. We were shown you guys are not actually that good. And so there was this stipulation, I think, that was presented, which was, I can't remember exactly if it was a number 1 contender for us, but I know for you guys, if you had lost, you had to break up. That was the story behind it. I can't remember. But even like filming the scene at the table there at Collider, I remember there was still friction. We were not cool with each other. Like we were like, friendly enough, but like definitely not friends.
Mhm.
And the match happened, and I think, first round, we're clearly losing. Like, these guys are on their game. They're not rattled. And Drew and I are tired. We've played 7, 8, 9 matches in like 3 or 4 months. We're just burnt out and not ready for it. And it's very clear after the first round, we're going to lose. Like, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have to swallow this. And so I know that before the match, there was a conversation Christian had brought up where it was kind of like, if you guys win, we want this big party and like streamers and like confetti. And like, you guys are going to be like, bye top 10. Like, I think we had brought a limo. Dagnino had shown up in a limo for the Lions Den, I think. I'm pretty sure for the Patriots. I think maybe we were going to leave in the limo if we had won or something like that. I can't totally remember, but we had talked about this tackle. And as far as like a more in-depth behind-the-scenes story of this, Drew and I are doing this whole Action Rewind series right now over on our Patreon.com/Team Action. It's one at a time. They're full watch-alongs. And we will get to this match, and we might even, if he's into it, might even bring John on for it. But
absolutely, I'm 100% down to come on for that.
Yeah, we'll tell that whole story. But I can remember that he had talked about the tackle, and we kind of rehearsed it a little bit. But John forgot it was happening.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why when you watch the match and Guy tackles him, you can see the look on John's face.
Yeah.
He forgets it's about to happen. When he gets taken down, it's not a brutal hit by any means, but it's definitely a real hit. It's a football tackle. I mean, Drew like hits, and it's a really good football tackle too. He gets the shoulder, lower body. There's no head. There's no neck. He fully takes you to the ground. And I think that's why it's such an effective tackle, is because you totally forgot it was happening. I forgot it was happening.
Yeah. Well, let me add something to that. I did forget it was happening, but then I remembered as I saw this black streak coming from around the table, because that's what he looked at. Because you watch those videos, he is full speed, and he comes around that table after he shakes Nost's hand. He essentially throws Nost away and then comes towards me and I'm pointing, and then when I see it out of the corner of my eye, because that's that military training, always aware of recon around you, I see him coming. I go, oh, that's right. And then when he hit me, I realized we were close to the camera and to the edge of the desk. So when he hit me, I held him and then had him drive me into the ground, or else we were going to go tumbling into the set, and that would have been a real injury for me, because I saw that corner of the desk. Yeah, absolute disaster. And those steel poles of the camera, we could have destroyed a multi-$1,000 camera, which is what scared me. And I was employed full-time at Collider at the time, so I didn't want any of that to happen. So when Andrew hit me, I just thought in my head, hold him and then guide him down. So Andrew's momentum took him into me, obviously, but I didn't let us go all the way past, and then he fell, he slammed me into which is why I had an injury for a couple of days in my back. I couldn't fully stand straight up for a couple of days over the weekend, because I had grabbed him and had him drive me back first into the wood that was there. But of course I sold it, the shock face and everything. That's all selling it and then getting up and being shocked as well. Like, what just happened? Blah, blah, blah. Because in real life, it would have gotten crazy. But that moment was such a great one, because there were half the people in the audience who didn't know it was going to happen. Like, they had no idea. And it was great. Like, JT freaked out. April freaked out. A bunch of people freaked out. Franco's in the chat. I don't know if Franco knew it was real, but there were a number of people who thought it was real and were freaking out in the audience.
I remember, Christian told us, don't talk about it. Like, you guys have to keep this to yourselves. So when it did happen, I remember, that's why the audience reaction is so real, because most of the other competitors do think it's really happening. We were not yet at a place where that kind of thing, like that's kind of the whole idea we talked about with Team Action Top 10. Those matches were really a big turning point for the league, where nowadays at a live show, there's always a button at the end of a show. There's always a big moment. Those big moments were almost created with those action matches. Like, they were so heated, like that's what birthed it. And so the audience didn't know what to expect. They thought, like, wow, Andrew Ghai actually just tackled John Rocha. That's really real.
Yeah, and Christian had to tell me, stop telling people it was staged. He kept telling me, stop doing that. And I didn't understand at the time what he meant, because I had my pride, my ego was in this situation. And he was like, stop it. You have to kind of accept this hit. Trust me, you won the match. You're going to get him back. You won the match. That's what matters. But I was like, all right. Eventually I got it. But I will say one last thing. The idea, you Sean, sports, I'm sure. When you see the confetti above or the balloons above, nothing motivates you to win more than knowing the balloons and the confetti's up there, and those people think they've got it won. So when he told us what he was planning for us, Matt and I went back and we were like, there's no fucking way we're letting that happen. No matter what happens, there's no fucking way we're letting that happen. So Ben's right. After that first round, I was feeling pretty confident, and then when we got him, we got the victory. It was a pretty sound victory overall. But Ben is also correct that these guys had been playing like 8-9 matches in a short amount of time, and that does wear you out eventually.
Yeah, but you guys still won. But
true.
I think it will also go down as like one of the top 5 most shocking moments in Schmoedown history, regardless of what happens going forward. Only because it's like I always understood Christian's idea of wrestling and trivia, but it always the physical elements of it was the always thing that kind of was missing. And because every time you guys would like cut into everybody's promos, like the only thing that was missing was the physicality. And I thought Christian would never be able to bring that element in. And then when that happened, I was like, wow, we've reached another level of the Schmoedown. That physicality is an option.
It was controversial.
It's funny you say that, Sean, because there's not a lot of competitors in the league really who can handle a bump. Like there's only a few who have even tried. And I mean, for God's sakes, I had back surgery. So like, I'm probably not even really in the class anymore who should really do it. But like, I mean, John, like definitely, I don't think you were like, I definitely want to get driven to the ground. Like, that was, you were kind of like, I hope this goes
a virile young man in full,
I hit Drew with a chair, and there's been a few of these moments now, but like, we're not a wrestling league. We don't have a bunch of like guys who are just roided up, just like running around, ready to, So we'll see how that stuff goes. I think there'll continue to be probably some like physical moments, but they'll be few and far between because it's just not. It doesn't lend itself to that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like some of the ladies to take some bumps amongst themselves. Why not? Let's have that for God's sakes. I'd like to see Cushing or Clark Wolf deliver a body slam on someone. Why does it have to be the dudes? Let's let the ladies. It's 2020 for God's sakes.
I just like the idea that it's an option now. And real quick, Lord of War is another good Nicolas Cage movie that's really underrated.
Good one.
Yes.
And you guys forgot Ed Harris and Nick Cage run the movie together.
The Rock. Yeah, no, it's a classic.
Oh,
it's
right. Yeah, but we weren't saying that they were talking about True Detective, how fun that would be to have them. We weren't saying they haven't been in a movie together. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Cool. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Always good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
How's it going, guys?
Thanks for coming, man.
All right, let's move on. How do I take Sean down? Like this. There we go. Brandon, what's up, Bucks?
What's up, Bucks? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty well. I just want to send some positive vibes and thoughts and prayers your way, Ben. I did not know that suspectively you could have COVID because I know like right before this all went down, you said you had a cold and I didn't realize you still had it. So much love to you, Ben and Rocha. It's always good to come on here and watch your stuff here. So
thank you, Brandon.
Definitely really enjoying this today's episode. I always enjoy watching you two just talk.
Thanks, Brandon.
Sometimes there's tension, sometimes there's not. So it's always like a flip of a coin. Like, all right, what are we gonna get today?
So Bucks actually came on Saturday. Yeah. We debuted our brand new show, The Greatest Movie Ever Made, on Action Industries, and we're bringing on 2 guests, 2 generals in the Action Army or above every show. We had 2 people come on, David B., who does the music for the Schmoedown. He's a general, and Brandon Bucks here. They came on for about 5-6 minutes each to talk about their favorite moments in Logan, which was really fun for us.
That's great.
And Bucks, you did a great job. It was so fun to have you there. That was as much fun talking about a movie as I've had in a while. So good to see you here too, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's definitely Logan is definitely one of my favorite films. Not a comic book, a superhero film, just a good film for me. So, but no, what my question was is right now we don't really know when this whole COVID quarantine thing's going to end. There's been projections of June 1st. I've seen some August, September. Now, hopefully, once this all dies down, we get a Schmoedown live event fairly soon. Where would your guys' dream city for the first live event after quarantine be? Would it be local in Los Angeles, or do you want? Because we were going to do Houston, New York always does really well. Where's one location that you guys would love to go once we can finally go out?
It's a good question.
I have loved my experiences the 7 or 8 times now I've gone to Boston. And I think that the Boston event would be so fun. I think it'd be really cool to do it there. And then my hometown is Seattle, which I don't think we have a massive audience in Seattle. I'm not really totally sure, but if they told me the first event back was in Seattle, it would be so cool to get to go home and have my family come and just, be there in my hometown doing it. So those are kind of my 2 answers.
Yeah. I would agree with Boston. I love that city. But my ultimate, you said dream city. So my dream place would be to do it in the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. Ooh. To have us do a massive Schmoedown sell out in Tokyo Dome with thousands of fans coming to watch us with a Titantron coming down to the ring, playing in the ring. I would take an elbow drop from the top rope just for that situation to happen. So I would be down to do it. So you said dream, that would be the dream, because Tokyo is where a lot of professional wrestlers go to leave their legacy in professional wrestling when they leave the United States. It'd be great to take the Schmoedown international in that way and do it in the Tokyo Dome.
That's the answer.
Yeah. Wherever it is, I'm going to be there. I don't care where it is.
Right on,
I'm making sure that whatever extra money that I get here from working right now, it just goes into a little bucket saving for a Schmoedown live event so that I can have a blast, because there are so many people that I need to meet that I've talked with on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. So I'm like, I got to make sure that I somehow get to a live event. So I just don't know when it's going to be. Well, I'm very excited for whenever it is.
We'll look forward to seeing you, man. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it, brother.
Salute, Ben.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to see you, brother. Salute.
Cool. All right, let's bring in Shug. He's got a Magic the Gathering question for you.
I love it.
Dying to ask it. So go ahead.
What's going on? Well, it's not just Magic the Gathering, but how you doing, Ben? Nice meeting you. I seen you at the draft. I've seen you at the spectacular, but this is the first time getting to talk to you, so it's greatly appreciated. Nice. Rocha, always pleasure to talking to you.
Thank you for moderating, my brother.
No problem. So I am a lot of people don't know that I was a Magic competitor, actually really competitive, day 2 Vegas, and so obviously Ben knows that. Ben knows what that means.
Wait. Which year did you day 2 Vegas?
Sealed Modern Masters. It wasn't the last. I don't know if you were there.
Modern Masters 1, the first one or the second one?
I think it was the second one.
That's dude. I day 2'd the same one.
Oh yeah, were you in the 4 different pods?
Yes, definitely.
I was in the Tomargoth pod. I
was in the Kiki pod. I played against Rietzel and Paulo in my 8. I was 101st, I think, was the highest I ever finished at a GP. That's funny. Okay. We were in day 2 of the same event. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, my highlight is if you go on that for that tournament, I'm in round 2 on camera.
Oh, amazing.
But I'm drunk as hell because I had been drinking till 5 a.m. And I was trying not to throw up, and I put a deck together that was mono blue, which should not have been mono blue, only playing 14 lands. And I know Rocha's looking at us like, what are you talking about? And I still day 2 playing horrible, but I was so drunk I didn't know what I was doing. So that's my claim to fame. Everybody knows me for that.
Dude, 14 lands.
It was horrible.
I don't know if I've ever been drunk enough to play 14 lands in a deck. I mean, that's
Ben, here's the greatest part. And when I say this, don't get mad. All is dust, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I played it in the sideboard.
Wait. Well, I guess if it's in the sideboard and you played 14 in the main, I guess that's kind of fine.
That's a great card. You don't play it in the sideboard.
No,
so that's my claim to fame. But I was watching your stream the other day, Ben, on when you were doing Magic. I popped in. It's one of my. I really enjoy when you do those because I enjoy Magic. But you were talking about, and this is a question for you too, Rocha, that you kind of let Magic fall to the wayside because there's so much Schmoedown. And so now that you don't have so much Schmoedown, that you're kind of trying to do it again and get back into it. So what is when Schmoedown comes back and you're competing full time? Are you going to let Magic or Rocha, are you going to let something fall to the wayside, or are you going to try to do it all while trying to compete as well at a high level?
It's a great question. I'll go first on that one. I'll say this to you. Ben and I, one of the things we talked about when we had our conversation over the weekend, one of the things I said to him is my legacy is pretty secure in the Schmoedown. Whatever happens from here on out I've already established myself as one of the best people to ever play this game. And that's all I was looking for. That's all I was striving for many, many years. And it's great to kind of be at that place now and at peace with that. So whatever happens from here on out, it is what it is already, and I can't do too much damage to it. So for me, building this channel is really the most important thing that I'm focused on in my life. Finding a way to make this thing be something people take seriously at studios and at publicist's office and things of that nature. So that's my focus, and bringing entertainment to people like you, Suge Knight, and having people on like Ben to be part of that. That is my focus. But the Schmoedown will always have a place in my heart, and I'll give it everything I got whenever I play and whenever I'm getting ready for a match. Absolutely. And one of the positives is that I've played so long, I know how to streamline my process now, and I don't have to take as many hours as I used to in the past. Now it's more streamlined, and I'm ready to go. But there's nothing that's going to overcome me building this channel up. But I'll give everything I got whenever I play in the Schmoedown.
Gotcha. And Ben?
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think this process of quarantine and whatever we're doing now that I'm getting used to is, interestingly enough, not that different from what I was used to living before. It's just the travel is the major difference. And so for me, I'm not doing anything right now that I wasn't, other than like I'm making a little more time for some of the passion projects that I've really wanted to make time for, and also a little more Magic online, because I know that it's a major audience that I've been involved in that I have not like streamed Magic. And so, I'll continue to do that. I think it's important to me. I've wanted to do it. And then I have this thing I'm launching that I've talked a little bit about, but John, a few years ago, you were on a pilot show for a network I was trying to launch at the time called Nerds in Suits. And that show never launched, but my great dream was to do kind of one-on-one interview shows. And so I have this channel that I'll be launching very soon with interviews with people like Dan Murrell and John Rocha, like Christian Harloff, big people in our space, other actors and celebrities, where I'll be doing, major interviews one-on-one. And then also I have the series where I'll be playing music from movies. So I'll be basically taking a song from a movie I love, learning the song, covering it, explaining why the scene in the movie, the song was so beautiful and wonderful. And then it'll be a short video. And that's kind of what the channel will be for now. And I'm working really hard to get that launched. I'm really excited about it. And I'm making sure I'll keep doing those two things once quarantine's over. But there's nothing actually, to be honest, that I've started doing during quarantine that I won't do after, I think is the honest answer. I've been pretty efficient with the time, I guess. So that's the real answer.
Oh,
yeah.
You go.
I guess
Kiss my ass, Saul.
Whoa. It's a
I
good
love
answer,
Saul.
Ben. It's a good answer, Ben. I think that's fantastic, honestly. And I look forward to seeing that and being a part of it. All right. Thank you, Shug. Appreciate you jumping in, brother.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good to
Ben.
see
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
One last one. That's Corey Richmond. What's up, Corey? How you doing, bro?
Good. Enjoy all of you guys' work backstage. I just had one quick question. And during the title match between Ben and Dan, when you guys went to sudden death, the graphic that went, I don't know if I'm sure you guys have watched it, but the graphic that went up said that there was no JTE rules. And then Christian went and said, you guys had one JTE rule. So I'm sure this may have been discussed already in past shows, but what was the actual correct answer? Was the graphic wrong or was Christian wrong?
No,
JTE rules in overtime.
You get one JTE and one challenge. They both reset in overtime. So we both had one. That was the understanding. The graphic was wrong. And yeah, that's kind of you didn't used to get that in overtime, but nowadays you do. So that was what we both understood. And I think you could probably see it in my kind of demeanor, but I was a little defeated going to overtime. I think I actually, to be honest with you, should have guessed correctly on Men at Work, but I don't know that it would have meant that I would have won. I think Dan would have still beaten me in a sudden death match. I think that's just that's Dan versus me. He's going to win in an Iron Man match. My correct instinct was actually Emilio, but I don't know why I decided Gutenberg was correct. But yeah, in that round, that's the truth, man.
Yeah. Once again, it's those things you can troubleshoot a question, troubleshoot your way out of the right answer, and troubleshoot your way into the right answer. It always depends on what happens around you when you're doing that. Any other question, Corey, or are we good?
Yeah, John, just quickly, because I haven't heard your opinion. what is your thoughts on the Dark Side of the Ring series, if you've had a chance to watch any of it?
Yeah, man, I've been loving it. And Corey, pay attention to the Outlaw Nation channel, brother, because we have a wrestling show called Strong Style, a pro wrestling show, which I do with Aaron Turner out of Orlando. And we have been reviewing the last 4 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, both part 1 and part 2 of the Chris Benoit story, the New Jack story, and we just did Brawl for All that we dropped on Friday. And we will be doing Jimmy Snuka tomorrow. It drops tonight, that Snuka one. And we'll be doing that either tomorrow or Thursday to drop on Friday. So, yeah, definitely on top of that, there's more content coming from us from Pro Wrestling Style and things of that nature. So Strong Style is the name of the show. I love Dark Side of the Ring. Been enjoying it very, very much. I know some people call it exploitive. I saw Brad Gilmore being upset about it. But the thing is, people have to understand, I think the greatest thing in the world is when you can look at something and see all the good and the bad, all the flaws and all the good things. That way you can have an entire picture and decide for yourself if this thing is good for you or not. And I think I've always been in the camp of showing everything. I and Christian will probably never allow it, but maybe someday we'll do a Dark Side of the Ring of the Schmoedown. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see the other side of things and how things could have gone in certain ways. I think it's good to discover and explore, do documentaries about all the facets of something so you can make a fully informed decision about a thing like that. So I like Dark Side of the Ring for what it does. I wish these documentaries were longer. I'll be honest with you. I wish they were 2 hours instead of just 45 minutes. That's my only complaint about the show.
All right, thanks, guys, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Corey.
Right. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate you coming in, man. All right, let's bring the graphic back. Let's finish up some Streamlabs, and we got to get Ben out of here. It's been a long day for him. Real quick, Schmoe donated. He says, which team would look the coolest as an action figure set? Team Action, top 10, Who's the Boss, or Founding Fathers? Wow, good question. Ben, thoughts?
Action figure? I feel like probably, I mean, honestly, if I'm not even speaking like a biased sense, but probably Action. I mean, honestly, we always had like these ridiculous bright costumes, and Drew had the wolf's head cane. I had the white jacket, the red jacket. I mean, there was like just a lot of outfits. We definitely leaned into the briefcase and the flashy sunglasses. There was just a lot of like props and costumes. And I think if you're going to make an action figure, I think you want a bunch of accessories. And I can't think of any of those teams that really had as many accessories. I guess like the Rocha, the hat and the cowboy boots are pretty iconic, but it feels like there's a lot of variety with those old Action outfits. So that'd be my guess.
I agree with you. The Team Action would be interesting, but I put it as a tie with Founding Fathers because Dan in that flannel with the shirt and different iconic caps, you know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff. And then we would have our accessories would be the belts. We'd have tag team belts or singles belts, and depending on what year or what version of the belt, right? Those kinds of things that you'd have. So I think Team Action, definitely, no question. But I think Founding Fathers in some way as well, just as interesting in a different way.
Yeah, we never had the belts. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Hale says, Rocha, you plan to have Ghai on the Outlaw Nation show as well. I loved your post on the Facebook group. It came with a lot of understanding and respect. I feel like having Ghai on would be another great guest. Thanks. Love the show. Yeah, sure. I mean, Andrew is definitely someone I've got in the mix at some point down the road to bring on the show. Could be fun, could be crazy, could be combustible. Who knows? But it would be fun to have Andrew on the show. You know, for his comments were about my unprofessionalism, and I totally respect that. He couched them with saying how much he respects how I host a show. And I think the biggest compliment in the game is I always forget how good he is at doing what he's doing. And when I get on the show, when a show he hosts, I'm reminded of how good he is. So I always appreciated that. It would be fun to have Andrew on here. I think he's an incredible talent. It'd be fun to have him on the show, certainly down the road.
John, I ask you a question. So you and I texted about it, and I know obviously I saw your post on Facebook. I read the post.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to Andrew since the show we did?
No, I don't think so. I haven't ever reached out to Andrew. I think I'm just in that place where I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it together. Like if the moment shows itself or we kind of run into each other at some point, I think we'll have that conversation. Or if I get into a feeling like, hey, I want to reach out to him, I will do so. Or maybe he might want to reach out to me as well. The door is always open. So I think it's going to organically happen when it's supposed to happen, just like ours did, you know. And I think that's how I basically ride my life. You know, if the moment comes for me to do it, I'm going to do it. If the moment comes for him to do it, the door's open for him to do it. But I think we'll get there. And I have no ill will towards Andrew at all. So I want to make sure that's very, very clear. I would love to have him on the show. And maybe the show is us kind of having that conversation and going back and forth about it and hashing it out. That could be fun to watch as well. Not sure what his interest would be in something like that, but certainly that's a possibility overall. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, great.
Yeah. One last Streamlabs here, and we'll probably wrap it up after this. Alex O'Neill donated, said, my wife and I are working our way through the entire best pictures list. What are some of your favorite black and white best pictures? Casablanca, The Apartment, Muni on the Bounty, and It Happened One Night are all great films. Clark Gable was the man. Ben, do you have some favorite black and white films?
Well, I think you actually just named like 4 of the best. I think probably the reality is that most of the best picture winners from the pre-65 era are like not or well, I guess it's not 65 really, it's 39, but like there's a stretch of 25 of them. There's just not that many good ones. I mean, a lot of those best picture winners from that time are not that great. Like there's a lot of very mediocre movies. I think you actually named some of the best ones, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if there's like a really special movie from the 40s or 50s that won best picture that I actually genuinely love. God, honestly, I don't. Oh, you know what? On the Waterfront's pretty amazing. Yes. I love On the Waterfront. I'm a big fan of that movie. That's in the pre era. So yeah, that's probably my answer.
Yeah, I think On the Waterfront is a great choice overall. There's a lot of I don't agree with Ben. I think there are a lot of great black and white films that have won Best Picture in the past, and I enjoy revisiting. It Happened One Night, certainly, as Ben mentioned, is one of the best ones it's ever done. Rebecca is a fantastic black and white film. The Hitchcock film. Yeah, absolutely. Casablanca, definitely. Best Years of Our Lives, I think, is a really powerful film about coming back from war. That is 1 year after World War II had ended. And it was pretty ballsy to do a film like that. I do enjoy, what's his face? Oh my God, I'm blanking like crazy. I do enjoy Olivier's Hamlet.
Sure.
For what it is. All About Eve is a fantastic black and white film. From Here to Eternity, I really enjoy Sinatra's performance in that one as well. Marty has a special charm to it. And then we start getting into all the color films at this point going forward. But there are some to go back and discover, and it's a matter of subjective taste in that. It may not appeal to Ben, but I grew up on those films, so they have a certain nostalgia for me to go back and revisit when I watch them. So that's a lot of fun for me.
It's not that I think that they are like objectively bad. I think it's that as movies go on, some of those movies really live on in a way that's very easy to watch, and some of those movies live on in a way that's like, man, this is just really boring. Like this is really hard to focus on. I watched this French film called Rafifi kind of recently.
Oh yeah.
And it's really
the
good.
Heist film, right? The heist film?
Yeah. And it's really interesting and it's really good. And it really is captivating without a lot of words. There's not much in English, if at all, in fact, in that movie. And I think it's a good reminder that, like, those spectacle movies at one time or another in our history, they mattered. I mean, I think I was just talking to you, not black and white, but about the Towering Inferno. And that's a movie that, like, it's kind of hard to watch at this point. It's not very interesting. It's almost 3 hours long. It feels too long. It's not a greatly constructed movie. And I do think that as time passes, we kind of learn the difference between core filmmaking at its best, like when you're telling a great story efficiently, and spectacle, which is featuring big stars and glitz and glamour from the time. But as you go on, it's not maybe as neatly constructed as something would be today.
Well, there are a lot of phenomenal black and white films that didn't win Best Picture, that didn't even get nominated, that people can go back and discover. Certainly, Some Like It Hot is a very funny comedy from Billy Wilder with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. That's incredible. And Marilyn Monroe, of course. That's incredible. So there's a lot. Clark Gable has a number of films as well. And look, The Misfits, which is his last film. That's a black and white film. So good. There are a lot of great Westerns that are black and white as well that you can enjoy and go back during that time. So definitely, this one here, Tim Franco, Grapes of Wrath, really good film as well with Henry Fonda in that lead role. All right, I think we've taken an. Oh, was it?
Oh, I said Double Indemnity, but go ahead, keep going.
Great noir, absolutely. 12 Angry Men is another one that someone mentioned as well, and Inherit the Wind. I love Inherit the Wind. Such a great black and white film with Spencer Tracy, Gene Kelly. And my God, I can't remember the gentleman who plays Brady, but it's a fantastic film overall. All right, I got to wrap this thing up because Ben, I've taken way too much of Ben's time. He's been incredible to come on for 2 hours after a very long day of being on a bunch of other shows. I can't thank you enough, Ben. I'm sorry we didn't get to everything. I wanted us to get into your backstory and your life in Seattle and action industry, how that all came together, but so many questions came through that we ran out of time. Will you please come back on the show? And we'll make a point of going into that right off the bat.
Well, I'd love to, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You mentioned Action Industries, and obviously if you guys are already fans, thank you. And if not, go hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We've got a Patreon doing all kinds of amazing stuff. Patreon.com/Team Action, the Action Rewind, the Captain's Cabana, the Generals tier, even the Sergeants tier. We follow you on Twitter. There's a new series coming out right now called the Sergeant Soiree, where we're going to take a full hour-long mailbag show. So go check that out, and thank you guys so much for your support. And John, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate that.
Please, it's my pleasure. You can follow Ben everywhere at Ben Bateman Media. Give him a follow on Twitter. Give him a follow on Instagram. Give him some love. And go back and watch some of the old matches of Ben Bateman when he first started and see how great he is now. Watch those matches as well and enjoy all the work he does in the Schmoedown and also all the hosting stuff he does. Everything he does, get involved with Ben Bateman and follow him everywhere he's doing stuff. Trust me, it's a good follow, and you're going to enjoy a lot of his content. I'm incredibly him and Andrew Ghai are laying out a blueprint for me to try to follow with my own Patreon, creating shows to involve the members and things of that nature. I'm still learning, kind of a baby in my own Patreon, trying to figure out how to walk in it yet, and I will get there. And those guys provide a fantastic blueprint. So go and subscribe to them and be a patron supporter of Team Action and what they're doing over there. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And I will see you soon, I'm sure, on the next thing. And please take care of yourself, man. Be healthy, bro. It breaks my heart to know you might be dealing with this. So I want to make sure you're okay, man. Sending you my best.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who watched, and I'll see you guys all next time.
Definitely. Much love, man. All right, there you go. That was Ben Bateman here on the Outlaw Nation Show. I can't thank him enough for taking the time. Like I said, he had a long day today. We were on backstage. He was doing a Magic the Gathering thing. And of course, I'm sure he's got emails and texts and things of that nature. He's a busy, busy guy building his empire. So I appreciated him taking the time, 2 hours, sit down with me. And I appreciate you all taking the time. Usually I stay after about another 30, 45 minutes, but I'll be honest with you guys, it's been a long day for me too. It's about 10:15. I want to wrap this thing up and head on off to bed and spend some time with my lady before I begin another busy day of stuff here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Please, if you can, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done. Right there down below, hit that subscribe button. Give me some love. Let's pass 20,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And also follow me on the follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Trying to get the Instagram above 20,000 followers. Trying to get the Twitter above 35,000 followers. Very close to doing both. So with your help, I can do so. And keep patronizing the channel. I want to give you a preview of a show I've got coming out very soon. Let's hit the video now. That's right. It's coming out real soon. The Jedi Way. That's thanks to Brian Ward. He created that incredible video. That is going to be the graphic we are using going forward. This is my way of throwing my lightsaber in the ring amongst these Star Wars shows. And this Star Wars show is not going to be a standard one. It's going to be a philosophical approach to Star Wars. What are the concepts that they bring up throughout all the different approaches to Star Wars on film, on TV, in books, in comic books, things of that nature. That'll be my approach. And it's going to be a positive show about Star Wars as well. What is the effect it has had in a positive way on fandom and on people's lives? Those are things I want to explore. So the Jedi Way most likely won't be a live stream show. It'll be a produced show that I put up for people to enjoy and hopefully pass on to other people to enjoy as well. All right. That's it for me. Don't forget Mornings with the Outlaw coming up tomorrow. And don't forget the Strong Style dropping tomorrow. We're talking about a new wrestling match, DDP versus Randy Macho Man Savage from 1997's Spring Stampede. We're also getting into Geek Buddies tomorrow as well. Don't forget that's going to drop tomorrow as well. And then Thursday content, Friday content, all of it happening. Going to announce all of it as it comes out. So thank you all so much. Thanks to Wiley Todd and Suge Knight for moderating there for me and in the Discord. And once again, a big thank you to Ben Bateman for being my guest tonight on the Outlaw Nation Show. And let me end the show like I end every show. Please, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year. I need you to do it because you never know what's waiting for you on the other side. It just might surprise you. And I am an example of that. And you might be incredibly surprised about what you're going to be able to accomplish if you stick around. And I need you to stay and be a part of the Outlaw Nation. All right, take care until we see you again down the road next week, where my guest will be the great Dan Murrow. That's right. The GOAT is my guest next week, locked and loaded, fresh out of his time in Screen Junkies to talk about what he's got coming up next. So look forward to that. Take care. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching.